Hello, everyone. Signing on.
Hello, David.
Hey, David.
I could tell it was you in the Arcata committee account because your microphone has the weirdest feedback.
Is it doing it again?
It's doing it again.
All right. Well, all the more reason for me to turn it off and speak as little as possible. Real quick, Dave Ryan, is Moonlight? There's an attendee with the name of Moonlight M. That's not one of the code names for one of the other committee members, is it?
No, Moonlight used to be on the committee.
Okay.
No, I don't think it's a code name to my knowledge. Unlike Dave Ryan, which is a code name, and you'll never learn the correct one.
Oh man, Moonlight, I have a whole new respect for you. I didn't realize you were undercover all these years.
We also already have quite a bit of respect for Moonlight, to be clear, because she is probably our most avid attendee, I would say.
Yeah, now that you guys are saying that, I do remember her introducing herself to me, I think the last city council meeting. So, yeah, I remember her now.
Nice.
She's a great asset to the city of Arcata, without a doubt.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So, looks like we still have another minute or so. A couple more people are still coming in, so I'm going to mute myself for another minute or so and check back in.
Thank you.
Right.
I'm going to work with my there we go. That's a little better. How you doing, Dave?
Doing good. Yourself, Mishka? You out of town?
Yep, I'm out here in Colorado for one more day, and then flying back tomorrow. It's been great visiting family and having a blast.
Great.
Yep, got up to 11,000 feet yesterday in the Rockies. That was great.
Nice.
Yeah, they really are doing a lot out here. I was in Boulder the other day and just seeing, oh my gosh, all the transportation, the pathways, and oh my gosh, they got it going on in Boulder. It was really, really inspiration. It's a great city.
Yeah, it's good to get around and see what other towns and cities are doing.
Yeah.
Done a little bit of time in Europe, although they were around to have several hundred more years on us to have established their infrastructure. So,
yeah, for sure.
But there's often inspiration
starting with the Romans
yeah.
and all the way to present day.
Is it just the four of us at this point? My screen only has four of us. I'm showing four.
Yeah, that's all I'm seeing as of right now. Committee members, anyhow. Yeah.
Okay. What's our quorum? How many?
4.
Okay, cool. Here we go.
So far, all I see is 2 of us. Maybe the others are off screen. I'm not. How do I?
Yeah, no, it's just the 2 committee members, and then of course we've got the rest of it are staff.
Yeah, so we do need some more committee members, but we'll hang out. They'll be here.
Okay.
Well,
we need 2 more, and we just learned this morning, I believe, or yesterday evening, that one of them may not be able to join related to COVID. But there should be others coming in.
When it comes time, I'm going to ask a question then. So since I wasn't able to attend the last meeting, and I actually did not review the notes and the minutes from that meeting. Should I abstain from passing them, voting for them, or would that block them from being accepted if we don't have enough people?
I would say it's your call. You can trust your colleagues and agree with them, or you can abstain.
Okay, whatever Dave. If Dave approves, I know it's going to be good then. They're good to go. Okay.
Okay, we have another. I see Susan has arrived.
Yeah. I always have a hard time finding the Zoom link for this meeting for some reason.
I did too.
Flash around. Where is it? Where is it? It never says it right in the, the email heading.
Yeah, that would
a
be
few tries.
That would be nice. I finally learned that it's usually buried in the agenda somewhere, and then sometimes it'll automatically, if you have Google Calendar, sometimes it'll automatically put it there. And I pasted it in this time so that all I'd have to do is go to my calendar and click on it, and that worked.
That worked. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, because I tried to attend another committee meeting recently, and if you go to the web page and you click on meetings, it seems like there should be a link, right? Boom, right there. But you have to pull up their agenda, scroll through, find
it in the agenda.
Find it in the agenda. It seems a little clunky to me as a way to get to a city meeting, but I figured it out. My watch says I should probably go with my computer and not my watch. It might be more realistic. My watch is a little fast. I've got 4:34, 4:35. David, is that?
Yeah, I'm still not seeing any other committee members waiting to be let in at this point.
And I know Melanie sent out an email late this afternoon, or maybe earlier this afternoon, as she indicated if there were people definitely not coming.
I haven't seen anything come through forwarded to me. I can check in with her real quick just in case. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Does 3 members constitute quorum?
4.
No.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, we need 4. And this would not that it's ever a good time to not have a quorum, but this would not be a good time to not have a quorum. It's a fairly important meeting, just in my assessment.
Yeah, lots of material.
Yeah.
So community development, you guys have another meeting. Is it right after this one to discuss this again? You guys are busy.
Wetlands and Creeks is up at 6. If we do have a quorum and we start, I'll reiterate this if we do, but I'll need to pop off at 6, and Dilo and Natra and David will, continue to liaise for the committee.
Okay.
So it sounds like Melanie did get emails back, and based on the emails she received, there should be a quorum, but
there's Wendy.
Wendy Ring just came in, so here we go.
Yay!
So we're good to go.
Okay, I think we need to change our sending the link. We send a calendar appointment to everybody, but for some reason it's not going to the calendar. So we need to be better at that on our side. So it looks like it was that issue. So Wendy, thank you for coming and joining. Great. Everybody is very happy. We have quorum.
Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is the July 19th, 2022 meeting of the Transportation Safety Committee. Welcome, everybody. Let's do a roll call. So I'll start, and then I'll just go around and in the order in which I see you guys on the screen, and just introduce ourselves. Dave Ryan, Transportation Safety Committee. And let's do the members first, then I'll come back to others. Susan?
Sue Cashman, TSC.
Mishka?
Mishka Straka, TSC.
Wendy? And I believe you. There you go. Find your mute
Wendy
button.
Ring, TSC.
Thank you. Okay, and others. Dilo?
Hi, my name is Dilo. I'll be providing backup to David Loya tonight. I'm a planner working in the Community Development Department.
Welcome.
Thank you.
David?
I'll go first, I guess. David Loya, Community Development Department.
I was, I don't know who's who on you guys' screen. David Case.
David Case, City of Arcata.
And Natra.
Nitra Kadri, City of Arcata staff.
Okay, that's everybody I've got on my screen. Just out of curiosity, David, since you're driving the Zoom ship, you're in the cockpit. Does it look like we've got some members of the public
I think
present?
Karina is in the attendees as well. So sorry to interrupt.
Oh, maybe she can be upgraded to a panelist if she's.
Yeah, I just brought her in, but it looks like we do have eight attendees aside from her.
Okay, great. Welcome, everybody. And Karina, you're up for introducing yourself if you're there.
Hi, sorry, computer's doing weird things. Karina Johnson, TSC.
Okay, great. I think that's, we've got all the committee members and staff. So with that, we need to get a motion to approve the minutes from our June 21 meeting, unless anybody has any comments, corrections, edits. Hope everybody got a chance to look at those. I would entertain a motion.
I'll move
for
to approve the minutes.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, so let's, we'll do a, what do you call it, a roll call vote? Is that the technical term? Okay, I'll start. I vote yes. And on the screen, Wendy.
Yes.
Karina.
Yes.
Mishka.
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
All right, the minutes pass unanimously. And next, we're going to get into public, oral, and written communication. Wait a minute, I'm looking at the minutes. Let me get back to the the agenda. Same thing. This is a chance for people to address the committee on matters not on the agenda. So if you are here this afternoon to speak on anything that's on our agenda, we'll give you an opportunity later. So if there's something else that you would like to address, we will see a show of hands at this point and take you in order. Because it's potentially going to be a pretty busy night, we may limit the time. Typically we go 3 minutes, but I may decide to go with something different. So let's just see. Are there any members of the public, David, who are raising their hand that wish to speak? How many do you?
We got Jim there.
Oh, yeah, this is Jim.
Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Thanks. Patricia's turning down her volume just to make it easier here. Yeah, just a quick question related to the subject of time allotted. I had an experience recently at a meeting where it was actually brought down to 90 seconds, and would just like to confirm that we would at least have 2 minutes for our oral communication, just spent on the time we spend researching and the things we'd like to say, and hoping that you can make that a point this evening.
Yeah, right now for just public and oral communications, David, did you say how many hands you might have seen up?
There's only one hand up at the moment.
Okay, so with that, Jim, we'll give you 3 minutes, and then we may come up with a different time span when we get to the regular agenda, but we'll see. We're going to play that a little bit by ear. So yeah, if you have anything to say, why don't you, David, I think you're going to be our timer, unless that was just a question you had.
Yeah, that was a question, Dave. I apologize. Yeah, and so just for the future, and hopefully we're saving time here, and it can be allotted for the time spent on questions and statements on the gateway. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that. I think I saw that meeting. 90 seconds seemed a little tight to me, and we're going to talk about 2 or 3 minutes a little later when we get to that. And again, we'll have to adapt on when we get to that point. So okay, great, thank you. Is there any written communications?
Sorry, Dave. Since then, we have 2 other raised hands.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and take them. Who's next?
Looks like we have Chris Richards.
Okay, Chris, go ahead.
Oh, hello, thank you. I just had a comment. I don't know.
What are they? Yeah, he said contraptions. They're electric contraptions, right?
Yeah, I agree. We're kind of in a transition with them showing up on the scene and people learning how to kind of blend and mix with whether it's bike lanes or traffic. And I think I compiled a list of bike laws from state and local ordinances a few years ago that I have, and maybe we could recirculate it. And it talks about the different classes of electric bikes and, regarding some speed limits and things like that. So maybe in the future, we just need to keep our eye on that situation. I hear what Chris is saying. I had one almost try to pass me the other day in my car it was trying to go faster than I was, and couldn't decide whether he was going to be in the bike lane or he was going to be in the car lane. Little crazy. So,
yeah.
Okay. Netra, I see your hand is up. Do you have any comments, reaction on that or something else?
No, Sue's hand was up before me, but
Suggested that was to just enforce the speed limit. But I agree, it's a problem.
Thank you. Wendy.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I think we have to be careful if we talk about avocado.
David, your hand.
Just add, kind of similar to what you mentioned, Arcata has its own local regulations on the different classes of bikes and different bike lanes, whether it's supposed to be in the bike lane or in the travel lane. And maybe that's something
I'd like to add a comment.
Yeah, go ahead, Misha.
Yeah, in my mind, I was never even considering any kind that we would look for a ban. I think it was just more of a speed limit, how to controlling the speeds. So that's what I just wanted to put that out there.
Right. Okay, well, let's move along so I'm not sure we've got one today.
I don't think so. I called them and I didn't get an answer. So I'm assuming we don't have anything today.
Okay. Well, I hope it's not because they're just too busy, too much going on. I'd rather just be forgotten than if it was that. All right. Do we have a transit report today?
No transit updates today. No. And same with engineering. Again, we got a lot to talk about with the gateways. We have a couple projects that we could discuss, but I think I'm just going to wait till next meeting on that one.
Okay. Fair enough. Sounds good. Old business. I'm not sure what we're going to tackle on here today. We kept these on because we knew that in the future we were going to be talking about some of these things. So I'll take my cue from staff, whether we have anybody here who's, has any, from city staff to talk about any of these items, a local road safety plan or the 8th and 9th Street development, or are we going to defer those to some future agendas?
I can speak to that real quick.
Okay.
I'll start with an update on the 11th Street speed study. So last time we talked about it was just kind of a draft version. And so we're still looking into some more information on speed humps and potentially doing a speed hump where there's no speed hump within the center of the wheel tracks for like emergency vehicles, and also looking at bulb outs at the intersection. So we're finalizing that report, and we're going to have some recommendations in there, likely with one or more of those options. So not too much of an update other than to say that we are considering some of the things that were discussed previously, and we'll be finalizing that report here soon.
Okay, that's good. Anything else on either A, B, C, or D? B, I guess we kept it on just because there were some items regarding the committee chair study session that we've got some goals we're going to work on throughout the year. So I think we kept that on, but I don't believe we're going to jump into those in any nuts and bolts way today. So I would recommend we just keep that on for future meetings, and it'll allow us to address that. And local road safety plan. I know Jessica gave us an update at the last meeting. Anything more on that at this point? I think we have a liaison. Is that who? Can you remind me who our liaison is to that working group from the committee?
I think Wendy is for the 8th and 9th Street.
Okay.
I can't remember who is for the local road safety plan, to be honest. Maybe Josh.
Oh, that's right. Maybe I was confusing that with 8th and 9th, but I guess we needed somebody for both of those, and we did get them. Okay, great.
And so I can give just a brief update on both of those, actually. So for the local road safety plan, they're having their next stakeholder meeting on or around August 11th. And at that point, they're going to be discussing vision and mission goals and other public outreach items. And so the first public outreach event is scheduled, or tentatively scheduled, for sometime in September. And then also just with that, it's not necessarily at that point, but even right now, they're kind of hoping to get any kind of public input or comments on that street story kind of website. I don't remember if you remember what that was, but they talked about it briefly on the last presentation they gave. Just basically a website that you can go to. It talks a little bit about the project and gives you an opportunity to click on certain areas of a map and provide comments or input, whatever that you might have. And so moving on to the 8th and 9th Street. So right now we are currently working on alternative designs and options. And so we have another stakeholder meeting scheduled in early or mid-August. And at that point afterwards, we're going to present the alternatives to the next TSE meeting. And then in probably late August, they're looking at doing kind of a live preview or on-site demo of some of the options. And I think they talked about that, maybe just like coning off certain areas that might be used for planters or whatever, or putting different cones and some flagging to represent angled back end parking and stuff like that. So just some on the ground temporary type infrastructure, just to kind of show you how everything would or could potentially work. And then just kind of a follow up on both of those, just as a heads up, we are updating the city's website to have links to both of those projects with more information on them as well. So I think we already have the websites up and ready. I don't know if there's much information on them yet, but hopefully pretty soon someone could click on there and get some more updates daily or every couple of days. Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like maybe after that mid-August meeting for 8th and 9th, maybe you'd come to the September meeting then, or maybe that would give time to be at the August meeting. I'm not sure of the date.
I had a question. I just might think my hand is hard to see.
You are right. Go ahead, Wendy. Sorry.
It's just about 11th Street. Is there any consideration in the alternatives that you're looking at for narrowing 11th Street as a way of slowing vehicles down and making more room for say, a Class 4 bike lane?
At this point, I don't recall discussing that, and I don't think that's necessarily on the table. I think we're going to look at the other options before that. It's not that it's necessarily off the table, I guess, permanently, but for the interim, I think we're going to try other avenues first. And maybe nature can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how I understand it.
Okay. Let's move along. I think that takes care of old business. So getting to new business, we are considering the Gateway Plan update, the transportation and circulation sections of those. So we've got members of community development here to give us a presentation. And let me just briefly, before I introduce them and let them take the floor and guide us through how maybe we're going to attack this tonight. Just want to reiterate that this is a rare opportunity for this committee to be able to participate in the planning stages of something this significant, with the decisions being made regarding the building or transformation of a community, or at least a portion of a community. And although the specific locations of certain types of development, whether residential, commercial, et cetera, can't be known during this process, the circulation of traffic trails, bike lanes, and paths fall mostly within the public rights of way is being determined as part of this process. And that's where we come in. And maybe there will be some some room for those things to change as time goes on. But so there's a 110-page document that we've been looking at. That it's in its draft form, unchanged since we last discussed it at our January meeting. And I mean, I've read sections of it in depth. I've scanned quickly over other areas. I've attempted to find things that catch my eye, that relate more closely to, that are relevant to our committee. So community development has held multiple meetings and provided opportunities to the public. They've done planning commission, the city council have provided opportunities for people to walking tours and things like that. And so I want to thank them for the time that they're taking to go to all the committees and do this and seek our input. There's a lot of jargon and planning terminology that you have to get through. And I know there's a lot of it that was new to me to start with, and some of it I still don't understand. So I may ask for clarification on some of those as we go along, and we talk about form-based code, and I mean, just different things that are that's the world of the planners, and for us sometimes it's kind of new to us. So my goal today for the committee, and I'll take my cue from where we go on this, is to actually come away with some solid recommendations for community development that they're ultimately going to take to the city council. And they've been collecting all this information, and I know there's a lot of members of the public that feel as though they're not sure yet if they're being heard or where this is going to go. And I think David and Dilo are going to explain to us, what the process has been to this point, and maybe some anticipated timing on when this is going to happen. So hopefully, we can take the time to go through the material, get any questions answered, offer suggestions, discuss perspectives, and find areas of agreement or even disagreement, but try to move the process forward in a constructive and respectful manner. So I hope we can make some headway this evening. And we'll talk a little bit about how, after I want David and Dilo to get a chance to give their presentation, and then we'll talk about how we're going to handle our discussion and bring in the public on that. We have some ideas of how to do that. But with that, David or Dilo, whichever one of you are going to go first, I'd like to introduce you. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Ryan. Really appreciate that high-level introduction. Just a couple of housekeeping matters first. Again, I'm David Loy. I'm the Director of Community Development. I believe I've met all of you before, but Mishka, I don't think I've had the pleasure. So nice to meet you.
Yes, nice to meet you.
Yeah. I do have, we're going to all the committees over the course of a couple of weeks, and I actually have a wetland and creek committee meeting at 6. And so Dilo is here to, to take over as sort of subject matter expert if I have to cut out, if the conversation is still going on. And then, of course, you'll have your liaisons to continue to run the meeting. But I just wanted to, make you aware of that beforehand. And then the other sort of housekeeping item I wanted to touch on just before we get into the meat of the staff report is that the staff report, it appears, was missing from your packet. We haven't figured out exactly why, but we provided a staff report and some items that were attached to that. Only one of the items that was attached to the staff report actually ended up in your packet, and I'm just going to have to assume that it's some mystery of MinuteTrack, the software that handles our staff reports and sort of the varieties between Planning Commission and City Council. So I do apologize for that. I will try and be a little bit more in depth in my presentation as a result of the lack of those additional materials. And I hope that we can still continue to have a productive conversation, but understand if if we need a little bit more time to digest those materials. But at the same time, we did have this item before you, as Chair Ryan mentioned earlier in this year, and so we're hoping that we can springboard from that earlier conversation. In addition, I've talked to many of you independently about the project and the materials, so I'm hoping we'll be productive. Okay, so thank you for indulging me on that. So I want to touch base on sort of the purpose of this work, the process and timeline. Go over that a little bit so you understand the context within which your decisions are being made and how they're being conveyed to the decision makers. The next item was to orient you to the materials, but there really are none in the staff report, and so I'll just briefly mention the item that you did get so that you can research that in more detail, and then cover what the ask is for this meeting or some subsequent meeting. Again, I'm going to try and be brief and succinct because the purpose of today's meeting is really for you all to dig into the material and be able to provide a recommendation for staff. And so we want to make sure that the focus is on you. And then lastly, before I start, I wanted to mention that we did receive a couple of email correspondences that I'm aware of. One from HCOG making formal recommendations from that organization that are of relevance to this committee. I believe that communication was forwarded on to you, and that'll be included in the record and included in our public engagement document. And then one also from a public member, Fred Weiss, who submitted an email that was submitted also to the Planning Commission that had some recommendations for process.
CRTP also resubmitted. CRTP also resubmitted their comments. So that's the third you should have received.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that. And Dave or Nitra, are you aware of any other correspondence on the item?
No, those are the three that I have.
So we've received those. Okay, great. Okay, so just starting with the purpose, the Gateway Area Plan is an element of the general plan. Now, the general plan is the policy level document, and so there may be some recommendations that fall more squarely in the ordinance level document, and some of your comments that fit more in the policy level document. And staff will help you to orient to where those land. But this is a new general plan element, and the intent behind the element is to provide high quality, mixed use, mixed income, and mixed ownership revitalization for the neighborhood that's identified in the document that spans largely the industrial zones and some of in the south of, or west of K Street and some along Samoa Boulevard. Again, the plan is online, has been since December of last year, and we can provide you the link to that. It was in the staff memo or the staff report that didn't make it into your packet, but we'll make sure that you have that so you can dig into the detail. And we'd intended to include the sections that we felt like were relevant to you as a committee, along with a tool that was the basically policy areas that we thought might be of interest to you. Now, we did mail that to you separately, and I'll come back to that in just a moment. So you do have that at least. So that's the purpose of this meeting, is to provide some feedback on that content, that policy level area. The process and timeline, I just want to orient you to real quick. Again, the attachment that you did receive details in sort of a outline format, and then goes into a little bit more explanation as to a couple of the specific procedures that we're working through. And so I do encourage you to read that document to get a really good understanding about how the process goes from basically anywhere from, public input up through your recommendations as committees and the Planning Commission's recommendation to final approval. There's also a process that's identified in there that has concurrent review of all of the different committees. And so there's procedures for how to, balance competing recommendations. And I'll show that to you in just a moment. And really what we're doing here today is to seek early input from the committees on these changes before we initiate the environmental review process. Trying to make sure that we have a stable project description going into the environmental review process so that as we're evaluating the impact of this planning on the environment, we know what it is that we're working with. And so I want to pause for a second here and just reflect on that. We really would like to get a recommendation from this committee today. If we could, have some recommendations come out of the committee today, that would be great. At the same time, the committee may feel like you need to take additional time. You want to, form subcommittees. You want to have, follow-up meetings, special meetings, or take this up at some point in the future. that's certainly to your discretion. What we will do with your recommendation today is to keep marching forward with the process and elevate that to the decision makers so that they'll be able to identify policies that they want to incorporate in the draft that's being evaluated under the environmental review. That isn't to say that you're not going to have the ability or the capacity to make further recommendations, but I do want to see the committee act timely. If you sit down and you say, hey, look, we're going to take the next 2 years to look over this document and really take our time picking this apart and then make a recommendation, I can almost guarantee that you're going to be passed over. The decision will be made well in advance of 2 years. I don't have a specific timeline. I can't tell you when that decision is going to be made, but at this point, we're anticipating sometime in early 2023. I want to share with you just so that you can see it visually. Some people are visual, some people are auditory, but I just want to share with you and walk through that again one more time, what the process looks like. I've got this PowerPoint. It's really brief, as you can see, only 7 slides long. So the timeline for review, right now we have the draft element. You'll be looking through it, making recommendations, along with all the other committees who are interested in reviewing this. We've listed everyone here. We're not exactly sure. Some of these committees have said, hey, we're not interested in taking this up, but we're putting it out there anyway. This process from when we started about middle of last month or so is going to take about 1 to 3 months. Not all the committees meet on a monthly basis. Some meet every other month. So 1 to 3 months for everyone to go through this. The Planning Commission, in addition, is digging into detail on each and every single chapter and reviewing them. We're going to take the information that comes out of not only these committee meetings, but the input that we're receiving from the community and collate that together for the Planning Commission to review before it makes its recommendation to the City Council. And the City Council will ultimately take that information and make some decisions about which policies to include, which changes to include, do they want to make further refinements. So this whole process we're anticipating is going to be approximately 1.5 to 3.5 months. This is sort of the first pass, as we'll call it. And at this point, the council will make decisions that will allow us to make amendments to the document, final amendments that will be the basis for that environmental review. But we have a second pass process that's allowed as well. If the council, has some issues they want to send back to certain committees, or they want to have a second review, or just get a final blessing from the committees, second review process would look something like this, where you again have about 2.5 to 4 months, with the second pass City Council taking about another half month to get to their body, and so that would be a 3 to 4.5 month process. So I guess the reason why I'm sharing this is because I anticipate any time over the course of the next 1.5 to 3.5 months, you'll be included within that first pass, if you will. And then if you continue your deliberations out to 4.5 months, you'll still be able to include concepts into the second pass, assuming that it happens, which I think is pretty likely. So the next piece is, well, okay, how are we incorporating these changes? So each of the committees is making recommendations on these policy areas. To date, not a whole lot of them have overlapped, but I'm starting to see some overlap. I think some of the recommendations that came out for today from some of the committee members overlap with discussions that had happened before. And so we're going to have a bunch of different changes, some of which are either non-policy changes. Somebody says, hey, change this word to that word. Here's a grammar suggestion, or there are policy affirming changes, things that really reinforce and ratify the document that has been in the draft. What we'll be doing with those is putting them in line in text in the document. So this is a page out of the growth management element, for example, where the Planning Commission said, hey, we want to make sure that, this is really doubled down on fulfilling the city's greenbelt policies. We want to emphasize that. So we've identified inline, underlined strikeout. I'm sorry, what was that? Okay, maybe that was just some interference.
I think there was
some
reverb on Mishka's device. There was some reverb.
Got it. Yeah, thank you. So this is the Planning Commission's recommendation for an amendment. We've identified them as green. We'll have different color codes for different committees, for example. And then the planning or the city council will be able to look at this and, you know, say, yes, we want to incorporate these changes, or no, we don't want to incorporate the changes. So that's one way that we'll be incorporating changes that really align with the existing documents and or have, you know, broad support that that is existing policy. Now, we've also had, you know, in public comment and also in some of the committee recommendations, policy changes that are recommended that conflict with one another. So here's an example of how we can handle that, where we will bring forward a table that identifies, you know, where the policy is located, what the topic is, building height in this example, what the different recommendations were. Some folks say limit it to 3. Some have said 4 is okay. Some say 6 is okay. Heard from a public member yesterday that maybe 8's okay with them. So where's the source? Where is this coming from? So the Planning Commission, City Council can identify that. And then ultimately there'll be a box for the Planning Commission recommendation, which is sort of the last clearinghouse before the City Council makes their policy decision. And then staff will identify the policy implications and trade-offs of taking on whichever the recommendation that's in that row. This way, the City Council will be able to see either new policy or changes to policy that don't align necessarily with what's in the draft and be able to select from among these competing policies and tell staff this is how we'd like you to change that document. So that, in a nutshell, is a very brief and high-level overview of what the process looks like, how you fit into it, and how those changes will be incorporated. I just want to pause real quick and see if there's any clarifying questions. If you have detailed questions, we should probably hold those till the end. Okay, moving forward then. The materials that you did receive, we sent out the policy grid that was put together for the Transportation Safety Committee specifically. Within this policy grid, at the very top here in this green box, a very lovely color selected by our crack team to draw your attention to the conversation that this committee had last time. So in the top here, you see the general comments that came up. Now you'll recall last time the option was put forward that you could take a formal action, and the committee at that time said, well, we want to sit with this for a little longer. And so now we've come back to you several months later to remind you of the conversations that you had. And then what follows below that are the policy areas that we thought would be of interest, mostly in the mobility section to this committee. We had sent those out to you and realized that this was quick turnaround, but we asked if you wanted to provide some feedback before the meeting to help organize the discussion, that you could send those back. We've taken those comments that we've received and put them in here, color-coded them, and identified the individual who put them in here. In total, we have 18 policies. So just to give you a sense for the scope of the discussion today, we have 18 policies, very few of which had multiple commenters weigh in on. And so you may, as a committee, want to work through how are we going to organize our discussion so it's efficient. In the same email that we sent this out, we provided a template that is an option for the committee to use if you wish to, that involves some straw polling and then some debate style process for trying to identify and highlight. That's only one way that could be done. It's not required that you do it that way. You can certainly form your own process. So in conclusion, and then I want to answer any questions that you have about the process, or what this gateway document is, or how it all fits together before we move into public comment. We're hoping that you'll make a formal vote for any modifications that you come to out of your discussion here today. Anything that could improve the document, whether that's you identified missing policies, or you have policies that you want to tweak just slightly. And you would be able to do that in your discussion, and we will combine and collate those discussions on this document so that you'll have a visual of what's being discussed. We would ask that you not get into wordsmithing and trying to craft language at this point. What we would suggest you do instead is to identify the policy area and identify the direction or the change that you think needs to be made. If we can make it on the fly and it's pretty simple, we found some of the Energy Committee's recommendations could pretty quickly be identified. We'll go through that process, but if we get weighted down by specific language, this will compound the time that it takes to get through these policies. So instead, what we'd suggest is you make a suggestion, policy direction to us. If we've got broad support, majority support for that policy direction, staff will then go and work either with its consultant or independently to redraft that policy language, and we'll reflect it back to you. It'll already be incorporated in either the table or the document itself. But if you want to make minor tweaks, then we can certainly circle back around to that. Okay, so with that, I wanted to pause and open it to any questions of the committee before you go into public comment. And I'll pull the document back up when you're ready to review it. Susan?
Yeah, I'm not used to reviewing planning documents. I'm a scientist and I'm used to reviewing things that are really concrete. And I had a hard time with the concepts and the policies as stated generally, in that I could envision there were some ways that policy or concept could be implemented that I would approve of, and there were others that I would not approve of. And so I feel like my hands are tied behind my back, that I can't say yes and I can't say no, because I don't see, for example, if a bike trail is being moved to some other comparable place in the area, well, what does that look like? Would it be comparable to me as a cyclist, the way I use that space? And so I felt, repeatedly frustrated that I just didn't know how I was supposed to deal with this. Maybe that's
Sure.
Maybe you need to help me tell me what planners do and what you think is a finished document, which is different than what maybe I'm looking at.
Sure. No, I hear you there. And I think that, part of the Q&A that we can do at this time will help to resolve some of those questions. The reason why that statement is in there is because the trail alignments are shown, most of them are shown where the rails are, where the rail corridors are located. But the idea is that, this is a policy level document with a master planning sort of identification of where the trails will be located. When the projects are implemented, you would go through a process that would start with, 30% design, move forward from there with more specific detail around those specific locations. And so it's impossible to have the project level detail at the planning scale. So we just wanted to recognize, we didn't want anybody to think, well, there's going to be a trail exactly right here. Some of those may require securing easements. Some of those may require, purchasing land, for example. And so to implement the document overall, the idea is that we've identified a goal, a target. We want to have a circulation system that looks approximately like this. And then the project level detail will define more specifically where that trail is located and what type it is. But yeah, I understand the frustration, and we could talk through, specifics if you have them in detail.
And I have one, analogy to offer too. I think, as a scientist and a details person, I'm sure it would be challenging to have everything be, pretty abstract, but an element of a general plan is sort of analogous to an architect's rendering of a design. It's supposed to show a vision and sort of give you the rough sketch of it. And the form-based code, the implementing ordinance, is more like the architect's plans, meeting all of the different regulations and codes. So we're still in the visioning stage. We're trying to set a direction, trying to really inspire people to what this part of town could become. So it really is intended to be more high level at this point, and there will be more detail in future as we move forward if we have general buy-in for the direction that we're heading.
Yeah, and just lastly to that, I think that if you can define as a group the specific endpoint, then we as planners can help identify the policy that would indicate that endpoint. So if you have a very concrete vision of what that endpoint is going to look like, we can help with the policy language. Does that help? Okay. Karina?
I was just wondering if you have any feedback on the comments we already submitted.
Yeah, so you're wanting to dig straight into the detail on the on these comments here. I would suggest, yeah, I would suggest that you know, we take 2 steps to get into that. The first would be to decide whether you want to weed through the 18 policies that there's points of discussion recommended on in this document. And if not, if you want to go through all 18, then we could start digging to those after you've taken public comment.
Okay.
David, I have a question.
Other questions?
Yeah. Am I unmuted? Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
So just 2 quick things. Just while you were speaking, I realized I need to backpedal just a little bit on one of my comments. As much as my goal is for us to make some solid recommendations tonight, the realization hit me that we have 4 members barely making a quorum. We're missing Josh, Misael, and is that everybody? David, Case? I don't see on my screen, but we have 6 members. Is that correct, or do we have 7?
I believe it's 6, yes.
We have 6, okay. So, you know, not that that's, I mean, we can certainly go through, I want to go through some, we'll talk about how much in detail we're going to go through these, but whatever we end up doing, I might feel a little reluctant to create solid recommendations without having our usual committee members. We're usually pretty good with having a, you know, full attendance.
Yeah.
And just to have some, I mean, I'm interested in hearing our other committee members' perspectives, those that aren't here. Even if I end up being in disagreement with them, I get so much from all of their different perspectives. So having said that, I'm not saying we're not going to do that. Go ahead, David. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, I'm just backpedaling and thinking out loud a little bit. You know, I mean, we need to make some ground, and we need to have some discussions. The second part of that is whether the committee would like to have our discussion, then bring in the public, get some public feedback, and then decide what we may want to do specifically. And I mean, I wouldn't mind getting your opinion on that, David. It sounds like you were leaning to going straight to public comment at this point, and I haven't heard from I haven't had a chance to read what the committee is saying. I'd kind of like to have our chance to do some deliberation, maybe not make any final decisions, hear from the public, and then decide what final decisions we're going to make. And we try to keep that moving efficiently, but does that sound like a process to you that's just going to get really bogged down in your experience?
No, I think either way is perfectly fine. I mean, there's pros and cons to the public being able to either hear your deliberations first or else provide you insights before your deliberations. So either way you want to handle it is fine. And I would leave that if you wanted to open that discussion to the committee and take a quick vote. I wouldn't spend too much time on it because, again, this is time that's eating into actually having a conversation. To your other point, you know, Josh would have to recuse himself. And so you are missing one committee member. Yeah, he works for GHD, and so he's been recusing himself. GHD is working on the project. And so he would recuse from that. But, you know, and I understand the desire to have, you know, full committee. I mean, you have a quorum, you have the ability to act, you have more than a quorum. It's really to your discretion as well. And again, if you wanted to take, you know, subcommittees or, you know, special meetings, that's all within your discretion. The Energy Committee, just to reflect on their experience last night, had a similar situation where they didn't have a full, they had a quorum, but they didn't have their full body. Ultimately, they felt empowered to move forward with a recommendation, and then are going to take the matter up again at their next meeting, bring those other participants, whoever happens to show up at that time, into the discussion. And, and if they have other recommendations at that time, they can make them then as well. So it's really up to you how you all want to move forward.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, that's a little bit of a game changer that Josh has to recuse himself. He's half of the people that aren't here. So mathematically, we jump from 60 to 80% or vice versa. Yeah, don't check my numbers on that, any engineers out there, please. So I would like to just briefly, there's only 3 other people other than me. Maybe go through, how do you guys want to proceed tonight? And I would just say that even though there may be 18 comments on there are places to where I made what might be considered, what do you call them? Not bookkeeping, but, I only had 3 items that I've really commented on, but one of them I comment on in 7 places that were just more what you would call getting beyond the policy. It's the same policy, but it's like, oh, you mentioned it here, you mentioned it here, you mentioned it here. So mine's really only about 3, and I don't know the other members, how you guys feel. So I'm just going to go around and kind of a roll call with you. Wendy, how would you like to proceed? Are you ready to have us deliberate and then go to public comment?
I'd like to hear public comment first.
Okay. Susan?
I think I'd like to hear public comment too. That might focus our discussion points.
Okay. And Karina, what do you think?
I'm ready to go.
I think you froze up on us. Ready to go with.
Others would like public comment.
Okay, so let's go to public comment. And I guess what we need to do, David, you're muted.
Yeah, we don't have any raised hands at the moment.
Well, it's because we haven't asked them to, probably. So
here they come.
Okay, while we're taking public comment, I was going to suggest, Karina, you have an unstable connection. It sounds like maybe you can call in using the number so we can hear you more clearly.
We see you moving around now. Maybe it was just temporarily. Hopefully it doesn't.
Or maybe just turn off your video. Just keep your audio on.
And Dave, Ryan, so many
Yes.
Daves and Davids in this meeting today. You may want to decide on the amount of time per comment. I think that there was a question regarding that came in earlier. Now that we're moving
Right.
now.
I appreciate that. So I guess at this point, and before we decide that, is ask everybody who wants to comment to raise their hand. And I do believe your hands will go up in order. And sorry, it turns into a race. I'd rather not leave anybody out. So even if you were the last one to raise your hand, this isn't Jeopardy, folks. You're not going to be sent home. How many hands do we have, David? Can you tell us?
We have 6 at the moment.
6. That seems very doable. And I would personally like people to have, at the moment, and that could change. How many public members do we have present?
We have 12 and 7 hands now.
Okay. Let's try 2 minutes for comments. Can you be our timer, David? And because I'm not going to change this in the middle of the meeting, like I heard happen at another meeting. So we're going to give everybody 2 minutes and just have you introduce each person, since you're in charge. You're driving in the order of the comments, and you just have to, unfortunately, rudely warn them when they have like 5 seconds. Not rudely, but they're going to feel rudely cut off. But at 2 minutes, we'll have to move on to the next person. So why don't we open that up and start with that now?
All right. What I'll say is, maybe just as a heads up, I'll raise my hand when there's about 15 seconds left. Hopefully I'll give everyone enough time to wrap it up. So, all right. Looks like we will start with Fred Weiss again.
Yes, hello, my name is Fred Wise. From the January 18th meeting, I transcribed the entire meeting, and it'll be on the arcada1.com website in a few days. Just to remind you of what you said 6 months ago, Karina Johnson, I admit to being really, really reluctant to turn this into a road, referring to the L Street, straight because I enjoy not having cars right next to me. I mean, you can hear the birds singing, people talking and laughing, the wind blowing in the trees. L Street is just going to be, all we're going to hear is cars. Dave Ryan said, I think it'd be a missed opportunity to turn this into a people gathering place for bikers and walkers. I see cafes there in the future, bakeries, little music venues, kids on bikes, parks, parklets, outdoor tables. And at night in Transform, there's lighting, there's people coming through, walking, having dinner, bringing their relatives from out of town, and they're not dealing with cars. That was 6 months ago. You've received the letter I sent to the Planning Commission, the City Council regarding the LK Street couplet. I view the draft plan as presented one possibility of how K Street and L Street can be configured. I propose there are others. There's been talk of a plan B, but I don't think a plan B has been formalized. There could be a plan B, a plan C, a plan D. These could be presented to the Creamery District people. They've been asking about it and other interested parties, ideally with 3D modeling with actual cars and trucks in the modeling, depicting the streets, not just empty streets, so people can have an idea of what it would be like. The chair mentioned an interest in form-based code. There is a very good presentation on form-based code by the city's consultant, Ben Noble. Unfortunately, the audio is terrible on it. I took the time to transcribe the entire presentation. It is on the arcada1.com website, along with an enhanced audio and all the 70 slides from the original presentation. So you can stop, read it, examine the examples. It's really worth looking at. It's an excellent presentation. Lastly, on page 3 of the strategic infill redevelopment process in your packet, the second paragraph from the bottom is headed, quote, time certain review. It says the engagement and review outlined by staff has a time certain period for review. I ask you to read this paragraph carefully. The phrase time certain is a legal phrase. I asked the committee to request of staff, what does this phrase mean? Why is staff using it in this way? And what is staff actually saying here? Is there another way that this can be worded? Thanks very much. And thanks for your dedication.
Thank you, Fred. Who do we have next, David?
We have Colin.
Colin, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. This is Colin Fisk with CRTP. As you all know, we do strongly support the Gateway Plan as a whole, and we believe that it's the most bike and pedestrian friendly plan that we've seen in the area, and so really are eager to see it implemented. Of course, doesn't mean that there aren't some small improvements that we'd like to see, and we did send you some, resend our comments, so I hope you had a chance to look at those. I want to address a couple things. One is we do support the LK couplet idea, and the primary reason that we support that is because currently K Street, as a major arterial of the city, is both a major barrier for people walking and biking across it, and also a scary and dangerous road for people to bike on. And so the potential to transform K Street into a one-lane road with all of the contemplated safety improvements and comfort improvements for people walking and biking is just really great, in my opinion. And, of course, if we could do that in some other way, that would be great too. But I think maintaining the L Street Trail and doing it as a couplet is a reasonable proposal, and we would support it. Some of the other sort of smaller edits that we would recommend that are particularly related to this committee's mission: add car share and bike share to the list of community amenities. Adopt policies that give bikes and pedestrians the right of way at key trail street intersections. Related to the earlier conversation, Class 4 bikeways on 11th, which is another one of those major barriers and risky streets for people walking and biking. And ensure that there's a 6-foot minimum clear path on sidewalks rather than just a 6-foot minimum width, which can be blocked by some of the other uses that we want to encourage, such as outdoor dining and so forth. So I guess that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin.
All right, and next we have Jim.
Hello, staff and committee members. I would like to put a pitch in for the L Street Rails to Trails as a linear park and a green belt, as it represents a potential artery in the Gateway Trails plan. The L Street section of the Rails to Trails corridor is identified as the only primary public accessible public space in the Gateway. It satisfies the concept of open space, connecting a series of green spaces, trails, and protected green belts and daylighted creeks. In addition to protecting the wetlands, it already offers passive and active recreation. It connects to the north with the path from Lushton Park, the skate park, Shea Park, and Stewart Park to the east. Presently, the L Street Pathway serves as a corridor to the trail network at the Arcata Wildlife and Sanctuary to the south. When the Great Northern Redwood Trail is completed, the L Street will be the gateway into Arcata and will eventually connect to the Annie and Marius Trail of Blue Lake. The present L Street path offers a green belt that could be enhanced with restoration of a number of pocket wetlands and that are more prevalent to the south. On the east side of L Street of the path and south of 7th Street is a linear ditch that runs south. It is considered a jurisdictional wetland by California Fish and Wildlife and is identified as an active breeding area for frogs. In addition, to the west of the path is a number of wetlands that could be restored and serve as natural features. In conjunction with the daylighted Jolly Giant Creek, the wetlands could be a part of a creek combining zone. The existing L Street path footprint offers the potential of a high-quality linear park in the form of a greenbelt corridor. The proposed two-way couplet for K and L Street would reduce the footprint of the linear park and eliminate wetlands. Please consider a greenbelt enhancement as opposed to a rosy expansion on L Street. This concept contributes to walkability in the proposed gateway plan draft, and thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Jim. Who's next, David?
Next we have Una Smith.
Welcome, Una. Go ahead.
Thank you. This is Una Smith. Right now I'm speaking on behalf of HCOG. Later I'll speak as a private resident. So I did send a letter, but I will alert you that there are no real policy change requests or comments in that letter, with one small exception. But I would like to highlight right now that HCOG supports the vision of the Gateway Area Plan, in that it supports also our goals of the Regional Transportation Plan, which is our 20-year transportation document. And two of the specific target areas that the Gateway Area Plan supports is HCOG's targets for efficiency and practicality in location of new housing, and also our targets for convenient access to destinations. In short, the infill that the Gateway allows, we recognize that building up saves land and it saves energy, and it also is that kind of density greatly benefits transit service, mixed use, and allowing communities to have jobs, housing balance. The one comment I did have that wasn't in the letter is particularly applicable to the city engineer in policy GA7BH, which is talking about new roadway connections. The policy says that the city engineer will determine which type of facility to design based on all the appropriate things. And I just wanted to confirm that the city engineer is the one that determines that final design, or is it that the city engineer recommends it to the Planning Commission or the City Council? The last comment I'll make, and this is in my letter, is that there is the policy GA7A, which I've already seen in your notes. People have commented on, where it says ensure the circulation system supports increased vehicle and trucks. And I just suggest different wording, that you instead ensure a functioning, safe, efficient, sustainable, multimodal network. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Una.
All Okay. So next we have Chris Richards.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Hello, Chris Richards. I guess I could speak as a citizen, and later as a business owner, and possibly even later as a member of Responsible Growth Arcata. But I know your guys' time is limited. I want you to have a very productive meeting. So I'm just going to mirror some of the things that Fred said with the LK Street corridor, also things that Jim Becker mentioned. And also I will reiterate that the whole concept is flawed in that the city does not have access to property on the north end to create that roadway. In addition to that, the rail system is not something that they currently have access to. So I'm really promoting that you guys suggest we look at some different plans. David has mentioned Plan B in a few iterations, and I really think the conversation should already be going in that direction, because the whole process of that becoming a reality is not going to happen as far as land acquisition, unless the city decides to get more aggressive with their language and what they're trying to promote here. But in addition to that, the L Street corridor is currently a very people-friendly, bike-friendly area that is organically becoming a wonderful area. And I think it would be an incredibly big lost opportunity to create an additional truck route through that very pleasant streetway now. I've spoken to lots of people that use the trail. I've done research on truck routes and in other cities, and it's not irresponsible of a city to have a truck route, and especially we're talking K Street's 4 or 5 blocks, 6 at the most. So I think routing bicycle traffic to the wonderful trails we already have, and we're going to get more, is a good solution. So anyway, I definitely promote not doing that 2 one-way street program and looking at some other options. Plan B, Plan C, whatever it is. Thank you. Probably out of time. Take care. Appreciate your guys' effort very much.
Thank you, Chris.
We have Patricia next.
And your hand is still up, David, just for informational purposes. Yeah, go ahead, Patricia.
Good evening. Yes, I would like to thank you and the committee for all your hard work in the past. And I'd first like to challenge, maybe really quickly, the notion of being able to speak as a community member and also as part of a group. It might open up a can of worms for us that are part of a group too. So I wanted to throw that out. I also wanted to talk really quickly, and hopefully there's so much that you guys can offer to this plan that maybe think about having a special meeting or a subcommittee in the past to go over and dive into this in more detail and give a lot of your recommendations there, since I guess there is one more committee member that you can include into it, and also because there is the missing agenda items that were left out of the packet accidentally. So anyways, my main concern for the Gateway area is really disrupting the L Street corridor in this area. There's a lot of the community that would really like to see that as an existing bike pedestrian path, but not only as that, but also to enhance it, both as a linear park and as a major thoroughfare for non-motorized transportation. I live on the path. I use it to hub out everywhere. I don't ride along K Street. I have been close to losing my life and lost a lot of skin with people opening up their doors with parked cars or, cars along the side of a roadway. So I'm never really all that thrilled with having a bike path going along parked cars as what is going to be proposed for K Street. I'd also really like to see Plan B. I hope it goes beyond the idea that was thrown out a while ago of a double-decker roadway, like the Nimitz style roadway that David Loyas mentioned. I'm hoping that wasn't the plan B. I know there was a couple plan Bs that might have been out there, but we haven't seen them. So it would be nice to see them. So the draft gateway plan on page 59 says the city's goal is to provide a park, high quality trail or open space within 20 yards of every residential unit in the plan area. And I think this L Street bike path pedestrian roadway would be a great opportunity to enhance that and bring that in the community. The community loves it. It's cherished by all. And it would be nice to see that protected. So I guess I'll leave it there, and hopefully you won't hear back from me as an RGA member, but if that's an option, you might hear back from me, but I know time's short. So thank you so much for all your time.
Thank you, Patricia.
Right, next we have Playhouse Arts and Arcata Playhouse.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm just phoning in as someone who's been in the Creamery District. That's from the inception in 2012 when we visioned the Creamery District with a lot of community members, both within the district and within the city of Arcata. And the bike path and L Street was in the vision that we had in 2012. Also a walking mall. So as I see more housing come into the area, which I believe we need more housing in Arcata, and so I support the housing plan. I'm against L Street turning into a road. Not on any sort of civic planning. I haven't looked at it that way, but in an ephemeral sort of heartfelt way of what the Creamery District is and how it has grown to operate as the Creamery District. So as we start to see more and more people in the Creamery District and more activity and more business and more, use tax that goes into the budget for the city and more taxes that go into the general budget, I think the opportunity for that will increase. And I think turning L Street into a road will impact that. I think it will impact my business in the arts. It will impact a $12,000 art installation that I've put in there with the understanding that it was a bike path. And I feel that it's a derail from what was developed there and what the community and what we had been working on with both the community and the city of Arcata. So I'm strongly opposed to the L Street becoming a road, taking away the trail. I would love to see a walking mall from the plaza to the Creamery District. And that's never going to happen, but that is something I would love to see, is more places where pedestrians and bikes can have the road, not just a piece of the road, but they can have the road. And I think that's what the bike path does, connecting it to the marsh. If we're looking at tourism, how our people come to an arts district and go to the marsh, they can walk there for now. That's my 2 cents on it. Please don't turn it into a road. That's what I would love to see. So thank you for hearing me. And I'm hopeful that you received the letter from the Artisan Actions Group. And if you haven't, I will make sure that it gets forwarded on to you. Thanks for all you do and for the love of where we live.
Thank you, Arcata Playhouse. Who do we have next, David?
So that was our 7th initial hand that was raised, but we have Una, who has raised her hand again. I'm not sure if she wants to speak now on a personal level, and we also have an additional hand that's been raised since then. So I figured I would just check in on your thoughts for that.
My thoughts are, let's take all the public comment right now we don't have a crowd here. I'm willing to hear from Una, and I'm willing to hear from Patricia again if she wants to speak again. So let's hear from the public. Yeah, go ahead, David.
If I could just interject, sure. I think that you heard from a couple of public members that the allowing people to come in under different auspices is kind of a slippery slope. This is a little bit of a challenging one. This particular member is representing an agency whose has kind of a referral capacity in the matter that's before you tonight. But that person is also wishing to speak on behalf of themselves as a member. But I think some of the others have pointed out that they're also have different affiliations, and that if the committee is going to allow for folks to come in and speak under every affiliation that they belong to, you may have quite a long meeting. And so what you may consider in making this decision is whether or not you're going to ask folks to be able to have a limited number of turns at the mic. So regardless of your affiliations, you're going to go through them twice, or whether you're going to limit people to speaking orally in the meeting once, recognizing it is not the only way to provide public comment, that people can submit written comment. They can also submit oral comment to a subsequent meeting, but you do have a decision to make right now. If you make the decision that Una can speak again on behalf of herself at this point, I think you need to be willing to let everyone else who spoke speak on behalf of some other entity that they're also representing.
I appreciate that, David. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and right now I'm not seeing that if we actually did, if everybody got to speak one more time, personally, we don't have a heck of a lot of public participation here. I'd be curious to hear from staff, maybe from David or Nature, if you guys have any feedback on that. Does that set a bad precedent? This is going to be a little unusual in that we have a lot of public comment at this meeting, and we've only had one other meeting, I believe, all year that has this type of participation. I don't see a great danger of it becoming where we set a precedent and it happens again. But
my only thoughts are we going to have another round of public comment after you guys discuss this, or
no?
Okay.
No, we're not.
So Patricia raised her hand again, and then we have the new one, which is Genevieve. So at this point, we only have 3 other hands. So maybe if as long as hands, they're popping back up again. Maybe this is a slippery slope. Here's another hand raising up again. So I would assume that if we're going to allow this, we should assume that potentially everyone's going to come back around for a full 2 minutes. So either maybe we reduce the second round to just 1 more minute, or we just limit it to maybe 1 comment only, and that's it.
If community development would allow whatever, let's just say we shut public comment down after each individual speaks once. And if community development would allow an emailed or a mailed comment of whatever they would say in lieu to be included as part of that record. Of course, we don't get to hear what that person says to, have any sway toward us today. So any other committee members wish to, Wendy, you have any feedback on it?
I think there's something different between representing an agency and representing yourself as an individual, as opposed to all the different groups that one might belong to. Because when you're representing, when you're speaking as an employee, you're not representing your own opinion. I don't know how you slice that, but to me, there's a difference.
Yeah, I tend to agree with David Loya here. And also I would say, I think I hear Dave Ryan that you said we can allow people second time. So I see more hand raised. So we will be here for all night if we allow people to repeat again. So definitely it's your call, but I'm just being mindful. If we start doing again, I see more hands raised and they would want to talk more. So just my thoughts.
All right. I want to hear from, let's see, we have other than Una wishing to speak on behalf of herself. Let's hear from the other two community members, and it's a possibility that we're only going to hear from people once, and that's going to be the way it's going to go.
So we only have one more that hasn't spoken yet, and that's Genevieve. So I'll bring her in.
Go ahead, Genevieve.
Hi. I was just going to jump in to say that I just wanted to second what the representative from the Arcata Playhouse said about, her opposition to turning L Street into a thoroughfare, and altering the bike path in a way that would diminish its accessibility. I don't want to see that bike path go away, and I wouldn't want to see L Street become a more expanded truck route or car thoroughfare. And then just to second, I guess the couplet that Colin mentioned to try and increase safety across K Street. So that's all I wanted to throw in.
Thank you.
So everyone else has already spoken that has their hand up.
Okay. I think what I want to do is give 90 seconds to people who wish to speak a second time under a different company. And if people are just pushing their hands up and they're going to repeat the same thing, I don't encourage that. So let's, you have a 90-second timer on yours, David?
Yes. All right. So looks like there's Una. She put her hand down. Maybe it'll come back up. So let's go with Fred.
Yes, thank you. This will be very quick. You can hear me okay?
Sure, go ahead, Fred.
Okay, thank you. There was a reference to something that's missing from the agenda packet. Is that something that the committee has in front of them? Is it something that we as the public could get or have emailed to us? I think it's the chart that staff has made that shows the comments from the Transportation Safety Committee from previous meetings. But could you tell me what that is that's missing and how we can get it? Thank you.
I'm not sure exactly what it is. Maybe DLO or David could.
So a couple things. I was going to say, David Loya, please go to your next meeting. Okay, thank you. There he goes. Dave Ryan, do you want me to speak to that now or wait until all the comments are done like we did last time?
I'm sure you can briefly cover it.
So, Fred, so for your part, I think you would probably be able to track this a little bit better because I know you've attended some of the other meetings. Every committee is given basically a riff on the same content. So there's a staff report, same staff report for every committee, same content. I'm happy to share that with you, share my screen or send it out afterwards. It's a very brief staff report explaining the Gateway plan, how we got to the point we are at, where you can find the plan on the website and so forth. And then attachment A is typically the excerpted parts of the documents that are relevant to the committee. Attachment B is that sort of like chart of all the different steps, which you did receive in your packet. And attachment C is the sort of table of all of the various comments. We will be going through it tonight, so it should be completely transparent. We have not really changed it from how it went in the packet, except for there are additional committee comments, which the intent was to share those at the meeting. So all of it is, pretty transparent and available. We'll be going through most of it this evening, or it's available on the website already. So if you would like to see the staff report, It's the same staff report as went to Energy Committee and Parks and Recreation Committee, more or less, if not exactly. And I'm happy to share my screen and show it to the committee before we move forward with deliberations.
Yeah, thank you, Dilo. The reason I wanted you to answer that was because I wasn't sure what was missing also, because we did receive a staff report, but I guess it's maybe some of the attachments that are missing. Okay, thank you. Who's the next public comment, David?
Patricia.
Patricia, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I thought it might open a can of worms, so I will keep this really, really brief for your sake. When I, as an RGA, Responsible Growth Arcata member, went knocking door to door, our primary focus was just to get to people to read the draft of the Gateway Plan, or get people to know about it and read it. And I was actually surprised. I thought I was just biased living on the bicycle path, or, directly adjacent to it, that it was just, my argument for wanting to keep this bike path as is and not have a major thoroughfare go through. But I was really surprised to learn that people had like a really strong desire to keep it as a bicycle path and to enhance it. Most of the people really thought it was going to become a linear park, and that was the whole goal behind it, which I was surprised to learn. People definitely had an issue with the heights of building that were proposed. Most people wanted 3 or 4 stories that I talked with, but it was the bicycle path was a huge opposition to them. So anyways, I just wanted to put that out there and just kind of represent everybody who I discussed the Gateway Plan with, that was huge on the list. Up there is probably one of the top 3 their top 3 concerns. So anyways, I'll stop there, and good luck with everybody else. Thank you for letting us speak again.
Sure, thank you. David, just you make sure and be running a 90-second timer and let us know when it's up. We're going to try to get things moving. And who do we have next?
We've got Una.
Okay, Una.
Yeah,
Please,
I just wanted to clarify for the people who it fell badly with. I was commenting as the official comment from and I didn't say this, I said HCOG, which stands for the Humboldt County Association of Governments, which is the Regional Transportation Planning Agency. So those comments were based on an adopted plan adopted by our board. So those were official comments of the agency, as Wendy and David did mention. So I cannot comment with my personal views under that, and I'll refrain from doing it here. So I just wanted to let people know it was not an arbitrary thing that I was trying to do. But I would like to take this opportunity, though, for a clarifying question, in that in the plan, Figure 8 is the proposed vehicle circulation, and Figure 9 is the proposed active transportation circulation. And in the active transportation circulation figure, it does show the existing multi-use path remaining as so, from the way I interpret it, on L Street. So I'm just as a clarifying, it would be helpful moving forward if perhaps those 2 figures were overlaid so that we could understand what actually is being proposed at this point to actually be taken away, because I would hate for all these bad fears to be based on something that's not proposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Una. We have anybody else, David?
We have one more, Chris Richards.
Yeah, Chris, go ahead.
Okay, thanks again. This time I'll be under the guise of Responsible Growth Arcata. And I just wanted to clarify with Dilo, that template that was not included in the packet has all of the comments that you've compiled from this group in the past. And you're saying that's available on the city's website? I wasn't real clear where that is. It'd be nice to have a copy of that before they go through and tonight and revisit that and add to it so I can compare later. is that, you told Fred it was available, or I'm confused?
Yeah, Chris, the matrix we'll be going through tonight is not available, but the video will be available afterwards, so you can review the video, but we aren't, to date, haven't been making these available on the website, no.
Is there some way to put that out as you would have with the agenda? I mean, it should have been included in that agenda packet. And I understand technology doesn't work, and it's great when it does, but when it doesn't, it's a glitch. So anyway, if there's any way you can get that, it's not like a make or break it kind of a thing, but that would be great. I know you probably have that document as it exists currently somewhere. So anyway, thank you so much, Dilo, and thanks again for the opportunity to speak again. And sorry if I opened up a can of worms with that, but anyway, take care.
Thank you, Chris. Is that it, David?
That's it. Yeah.
All right. We're going to close public comment then and move on to committee deliberation. So I guess the question is how we best want to proceed. And I'm not sure I exactly followed what, David maybe had some ways to suggest that we could eliminate some duplication of discussions. And so, Dilo, maybe in your experience, is there a way that you would recommend that would be most useful to you at this point to find out where the committee stands?
Sure. Well, I guess I'll just start by saying, there's a lot of content, and, each policy could really be its own discussion. So we definitely appreciate your leadership, Chair Ryan, and, acknowledging, yes, this is really, really important work. And we also want to try and get, to the real nugget of what the concerns are and figure out how to address them or make policies better. So with that being said, every committee has kind of run meetings a little differently. This is a new structure that we're trying out to assist the committees in kind of digging into the details. But I will say 3 committee members did provide comments. So thank you to Karina and Susan and yourself, Dave, for doing that. I'm going to share my screen. This was sent to you before the meeting. But what we have here is all of the compiled comments. And the ones that are kind of peach toned are highlighted because one member or multiple members of the committee had commented on it. The ones that are still in white have not yet received a comment from the committee. So it might be worthwhile if everyone has access to be able to pull this up that was sent to you by, I believe, Melanie before the meeting. Just take 2 or 3 minutes and look through it and see if there are any cells that are in white that you would like to flag to comment on with the full committee. Or, Dave, another option, and sorry if I'm like making you seasick scrolling through, I'm going to stop doing that. Another option would be just to take a quick, straw poll vote now, see if the committee would prefer just to go through every single policy, item by item. So those are, I would recommend maybe 2 options. One, either go through every one or give the committee a couple of minutes to review what has already been put together and see if there are any other additional policies that haven't been flagged yet that anyone would like to go over. And then we can add that to the pile of policies to go through as a group.
Well, I would ask the other members to correct me if I'm wrong, but if we didn't comment, it means we have no problems with that particular policy and they're fine just the way they are. So that would eliminate a lot of them because I believe I counted 39 different policy items. And then if you say we had 18 comments or something like that, that's quite a bit different. So Wendy and Susan or Karina, whoever commented, is it also your understanding that, if you didn't put a comment on, are you good with it? Or Wendy, since I don't know if you had an opportunity to look at this and if you're going to have any items to bring up. So let me ask Susan and Karina first. Do you have any comments on anything other than the ones that, the ones that are blank? Susan?
I commented on things that I felt I could concretely add to. A lot of them, as I mentioned in my initial question to David, a lot of things to me seem so nebulous. I didn't know how to deal with them. So just because I didn't comment doesn't mean I don't have anything to say. It means I don't know how to address it. It's
how would you? Do you have questions on those that you're going to want to ask
I think
tonight,
it's just
or?
my scientist brain compared to a planner brain. I just don't function that way. I don't think that way.
Well, and one quick note on that, if I may, is that that is completely fine. Not every comment or not every policy will need a comment from every committee member. I think it is definitely sort of more of a stone soup. If you have expertise, if you have an opinion, you kind of put that forward. Everyone will have different things to say. And also keep in mind, this is one committee of 7 that we are going to before we bring it to Planning Commission and then send it to the council. So there's no need, to comment on everything if you don't feel like you have something that you particularly want to add to improve the policy. Just to clarify that and give that perspective, because this is one step in a very long road.
Right, I agree. I think it's our collective comments that are most important, and I'm with you, Susan. I mean, there were things on there that I didn't dive into, didn't catch my eye, and I just said, as a committee, there will be others who know better than me. Karina, what about you? Are there things other than your comments that you want to delve into at all?
I commented on the things that I thought needed commenting on.
Okay. And Wendy, since I guess maybe, I don't know if you've got an opportunity and how you, if you have some issues that you want to bring up this evening. Without getting into them, just do you know if you have some and about how many?
I just wanted to say I don't have access to this grid here, so it's difficult for me to say anything.
Oh, I
did not get anything from Melanie.
Were you not receiving emails last week? We got about 4 of them.
I know, and I didn't get any of them. I searched my email for anything from her and anything saying TSC. I got nothing.
Did you check your spam folder?
I could do that, but I've always gotten them before, so I don't know why it would be going to spam right now.
I've had my filter do that sometimes.
It does
forever, and it suddenly decides it's spam.
Well, let me look.
And it's unfortunate in a way, but I guess my recommendation as staff would be if there is a committee member that hasn't had the opportunity to review these and hasn't seen them, it may be best to go through each one. But obviously, I would defer to the committee.
I'll tell you what, for right now, why don't we, Karina, how many issues of your important issues do you have?
Hang on, let me pull it up and remember.
While you're pulling it up, Mishka, you got your hand raised. Did you have a quick question or comment? You're muted. Mishka, you're muted. Yeah, not yet. Keep trying. Find that. There you go.
There we go. Hey, I have a time constraint on my end. I did not budget for more than 2 hours for us to be in this meeting. The way it's proceeding looks like it's going to go quite a bit longer, like 4 hours, right?
No.
What can we do at this point? Because I have a hard stop at 7:30. And does that make us quorumless if I were to leave the meeting?
So just to be clear, are you talking 7:30 your time?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm in Colorado. I'm sorry. That would be 6:30. Yeah. That would be 6:30.
Yeah. It's not the end of the world if we have to continue this to the next meeting. And that would give Wendy more time, but we could spend the rest of the time that we have here at least starting. I would hate to not make an attempt to get through what we can until you have to leave. So why don't we do that?
It's good with me. Are we getting is my audio giving feedback now, or is it better?
I don't have a problem with your audio personally.
So just to clarify, and Dave, we will still have quorum even when Mishka leaves, because right now we have 5. If he leaves, we still have 4.
Okay. Mishka, did you have comments that you were going to make to this this effort?
I'm glad that we had the input from our community members before we went on to discussing this, because I feel the same with the L Street corridor. I would hate to lose it. So I kind of think we need to deliberate that a little bit deeper, perhaps, because I like I said, I feel the same. It would be a shame to take it away, but I'm not sure what we're putting in its place exactly yet either. I'm sure that would be in the document if I dug deeper.
Yeah, I think on the page, the 70s, are there the pages in the 70s, I believe, are the diagrams that show the cross section. And I think that was something that Una made mention to. And if people haven't been looking at that, it'll show that the trail isn't going away. It's just going to be, there's going to be additional road, maybe a landscaping strip. I mean, maybe Dilo could pull it up, but I don't know that we need to see it. But it just would involve a single lane, a 12-lane road, probably a sidewalk over on that side, a 12-foot road, 12 lane.
Okay, there.
A 12-foot road. I think it's down in the page 70 or something. Dilo is the cross section, or whoever's got
the cross section
control of the screen.
Yeah, I can find that for you.
That shows that. I can't remember which one.
PDF page 76.
So
document page 76, I mean, and then a PDF page is 81.
Okay, great. Thank you.
It's different.
Scrolling through 76. We're coming up on it, you guys. Okay.
That's it, yeah.
So yeah, if you look at the one below the box that has the word alternative in it, I believe there's a couple alternatives, but the trail stays, and quite possibly they even modify it a little, and maybe I don't know if it gets widened. I can't read those dimensions, but yeah. So if that helps you some.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry, Dave, really quickly, are we going to end at 6:30 when Mishka is leaving, or will we continue?
Well, we wouldn't have to. We could continue. And I kind of wanted to get started and see, how this is going to go and how many actual items we have. Let's only go back to Karina. I'd asked her about how many, because I've only got maybe 3 myself, even though I made 7, 8, 9 comments. Like I said, 7 of them relate to the same thing. So Karina, how many did you have?
I've got like 4 or 5, but they're really pretty simple stuff.
Okay. And Susan?
I basically had 1.
Okay. So I think we can just start. I would like to go member by member and give your concerns, and then we can discuss them. Dilo, do you think that sounds reasonable? I don't think it sounds like we have a whole lot, and we can maybe get through them. And when Mishka has to leave, I believe we'll still have a quorum.
That sounds completely reasonable to me. And I would, just also kind of back up what Karina said. I would say that there seemed to be, a real desire to discuss the couplets, but the majority of other comments they look to me to be pretty simple to incorporate into existing policy. So I doubt they would take nearly as long.
Okay. So do we want to start with the first one? And we'll let the member who made the comment maybe see if they want to address how critical it is for them. And while we read it, the other members can decide if they support it or don't think it should be added.
And would you like me to share screen again?
Yeah,
that would,
okay.
That
would be
right
great.
Now.
Thank you.
So this is Karina Johnson. If you would like to go first, I put you first here because we received your template first. So thank you for returning that promptly.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure why you moved it, but I did include kind of a rephrasing of part of it.
Yeah, so I can explain that really quickly. Okay. So for the, what we did is put all submitted comment in here with the intent of having committee recommended modifications as like, if it is fully adopted by the full committee, we would put it in here in the notes. But I did see that for this one, you basically did suggest an update to this policy.
Yes.
Basically removing vehicles and basically adding efficient forms of mobility. So that would be very easy to update.
Yeah, because as I said right there, we should be de-emphasizing the ownership and use of single occupancy vehicles. It's fairly self-evident.
The only thing that I would respond to that is, again, I'll just say I didn't read word for word the 110-page document, but I believe that the flavor of it is that it is encouraging those things that you're encouraging, Karina. So I guess maybe you didn't find it sufficient in the rest of the document that it makes that point you want rewording.
Probably, at least that section. Just planning for more cars. I know it's a reality, but I don't have to like it. My thought is if the arterials get clogged like K Street, that's all for the better. It'll slow the cars down.
Yeah, just to go on the record on a similar note, because it's going to come up again. I think the term used is that with the anticipated increased circulation, K Street is going to be congested. I'm going to start using, instead of congested, I'm going to use the term it becomes a slowdown zone. Congested has a sense to it in traffic that's a bad thing. I'm going to go, if it slows things down, then it could be good. So I think we're in agreement there, and just maybe saying it in a different way.
Yeah.
So did you just wordsmith a little of this over here? I guess that's what I'm just trying to figure out.
Yeah, I did. I misunderstood what they were asking. So
you wanted the word efficient in there?
I was just suggesting, take out vehicles.
I don't have any objection to that becoming a recommended modification. And the other members have comments. Mishka, your hand is still up, and then Susan.
It may have been from prior.
Oh, okay, Susan.
Are we going to put in efficient and drop trucks, and instead of naming them, just say efficient forms of transportation or mobility?
Trucks, transit, bicycle, everything else stays the same. The word, she's just suggesting adding the word efficient.
Okay. I took out the word vehicles.
Oh,
yeah,
those are single occupancy vehicles.
Oh, I see. We should be de-emphasizing the ownership.
I assume trucks are for delivery and kind of necessary.
Yeah.
I would support that. This is Wendy.
So, vehicles is pretty generic.
Well, they singled it out, so I assume they meant cars and SUVs and pickups, single occupancy vehicles. If they didn't, I don't know. I'm not sure what they meant by that.
Okay. David, did you have a comment or question? Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know how much I'm supposed to speak to this. The only thing I was just going to comment is the way that it's worded now is consistent with our complete streets policy, where we do identify having a system for vehicles, trucks, transit, bicycles, and pedestrians.
But see, legally speaking, bicycles are vehicles, which is why it's a little bit confusing.
Yeah,
and so are trucks.
I'm good with the word efficient, but I think taking vehicles out is unnecessary. So I don't know if I could support that one.
Okay.
I have a comment. The one topic that I commented on could go in this category as well. And my background is I live within a half a mile of a local elementary school, and I see the huge amount of traffic from parents who drop off and or pick up their children every day. And if the city is looking toward having a large increase in population in this area in which people are encouraged to not own cars, I think it's really, really important to show how the children, especially the really young ones, in those families are going to get to school. What are the routes to school? Are there ways that a 10-year-old could ride a bicycle safely to the school? Are the buses going to be coming through? I mean, I think that if you're going to really increase the population and if you're going to have young families, then you have to make it really clear that you're thinking about kids getting to school, because otherwise the single occupancy vehicle and the chaos that I see near my house is going to really clog up that area.
Hey, Sue, have you ever heard of a bike bus?
Oh, I have. Karina, I know all of that, but I also know people who have a child in daycare and they have a child in preschool and they have somebody in second grade and they have to get to work and their life is very complicated. And,
Yes,
I think we have to, if we're going to have 4 stories worth of apartments of people here, we have to somehow make it really easy for those people to be comfortable about their kids getting to school.
Absolutely. 100%.
I wonder, well, I guess Mishka has to leave, so maybe I should save this, but I was going to say, I wonder if you would like to go through these and make a straw poll vote with each policy. Dave, is that?
A straw poll meaning just an informal quick vote?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe we should do that. So I guess I'm not sure which part of it, Karina, you want this whole thing in there, even the top part, or is that just your comment?
It was just a suggestion.
To add the second part.
Yeah, it was just a suggestion. If somebody's got a better idea, go for it.
I think it's a good sentiment. I just think you can leave the word vehicles in and I'd be good with it. I think it's kind of harmless. Anybody else have a problem with the word vehicles?
Really?
Well, I think the point is that what we really want to see is a decreased demand for single occupancy vehicles. And so it just sort of what we really want is a circulation system that prioritizes the efficient and does not support as so much increased demand for single occupancy vehicles.
Right.
So I feel like we should say so.
And just the way that leave vehicles out of the way she's got it struck out.
Say single occupancy vehicle.
Yeah.
I would say that it supports increased demands for efficient mobility and that it does not, or that it prioritizes.
But that would be
or maybe just leave it at increased demands for all efficient forms of mobility, period.
Yes, good.
Yeah. You willing to do that, Karina?
There's no reason to, enumerate just exactly which vehicles you're talking about.
Right.
That works.
And I would support it. So take a vote. I would say yes. Just raise your hands. I don't know if we need to do a roll call, David or Netra. You'll have to let me know.
Aye.
No, this is not a voting, so I would just say straw poll. So you're just checking on things. So at the end, we will take the.
Does anybody oppose this? I don't oppose what she just moved over into there. Okay. We can make a motion later after we go through them. Okay, Dilo, move us along. What do we have next?
Okay. We're going to get there by midnight, you guys.
I think we'll get better at this.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, one other quick question is, Dave, Ryan, you dropped this bomb with your comment in this policy. Do you want to hash out L and K in this meeting, I'm assuming we might be moving to a special meeting. Would you like to go through some of the more straightforward ones and leave the couplet for a future meeting, or talk about the couplet now and see where we land with time?
We can go past it, but I think we did bring it up. It was brought up before, but so I don't think it's new to anybody, but maybe it is. So maybe we could do some of the others that are maybe a little easier to get through.
Okay, and David did want to let you know as well that in terms of the KL couplet, what that would likely mean would not be an update to the actual detailed policy language and kind of wordsmithing like we're doing here, but instead would be more in that table he showed with kind of different committees and commissions recommending sort of various strategies to the council.
Okay.
So that would be the format that would take.
All right, that makes sense, as long as we don't have to go through and change every single one, but it's just going to be inconsistent if at some point if this recommendation was to become approved by the committee, it would just be nice to say, even if with a footnote or something, also affects these other items potentially, and
Absolutely.
then call it footnote A or something like that. So we can move on to other people's and see where we get.
Okay, and you did flag that for us, Dave. Just modifications to the figures and the policy will also affect other plan pages, so we'll make sure to make a note of that. So I'm going to, for now, move past anything that's specifically referring to K and L, and I'm happy to come back to them at any time, so please let me know.
Okay.
So scrolling down here, this next one is I interpreted as more of a general comment from Karina as opposed to a specific suggested modification to this policy. Karina, do you want to run us through your thinking?
Well, it says reduce the percentage of trips that are made by automobile and provide the opportunity and facilities to divert trips from automobiles to other modes. Like I said, drivers need sticks. They don't respond well to carrots, especially when it's something like getting out of the car. So we need sticks. We need to make driving less easy, less convenient, and less cheap than walking or riding. So that's why I suggested metered parking. It would help pay for the pavement, and if you put the money back into that area, people will see it and won't mind it so much. In improving it, maintaining it, that sort of thing.
Dilo, is there something else somewhere else in the plan that ever specifically talks about items like that, metered parking being a tool that you're aware of? I guess if we have all of the mostly transportation things right here and it doesn't mention it, maybe we have to assume it doesn't specifically mention it.
It would be in this section in terms of sort of disincentivizing as opposed to incentivizing. I am not remembering any section that specifically speaks to metering. So this might be a good opportunity to, basically say sort of disincentives, or, regulation of parking, for example, meters could be a tool used as we develop the actual regulations for the zone.
So I don't have a problem with if there was a comment that just says, recommend metered parking, or encourage, consider something like this, encourage metered parking with proceeds to be spent back in the gateway or something like that, or in the neighborhoods. Does that say it? Yeah, back in the.
Because we could bring metered parking back to the plaza and again, put the money into the plaza. Now that it's all digital these days.
Any thoughts from the other members on that? Wendy, if you're talking, we can't hear you. I think you're.
Okay. Could we just say where it says provide opportunities and facilities, we could add and incentives such as parking measures to divert trips from automobiles?
Wendy, would you mind repeating this just one more time for me?
Oh, okay. The sentence that says reduce the percentage of trips that are made by automobiles and provide opportunity, facilities, and incentives such as parking measures to divert trips from automobiles to other modes.
Yeah, let me copy that.
Parking measures. That might be confusing. I mean, that would be confusing to me. It doesn't.
Well, I mean, there's metered parking, but there's also, limiting the number of parking spaces. So I just wanted, you could enumerate them, I suppose.
Yeah.
Limiting parking is good too.
And you can call it a for instance so that they know it's not an end all. Such as, you can just say such as parking meters and
limited parking.
Limited parking. Because it is a fact that limited parking is an incentive to think about whether you were going to drive there.
Works for me.
So are we good with that? It kind of runs off the screen under my my people. I mean, our maybe I can move my.
I like it.
So who do we have left? Me, Wendy, Karina, and Susan. You're still here, right? Just you're off my screen. Natra, did you have a comment?
Yes, I'm still here.
Yeah, I know. I think on the last one, to encourage meter parking with proceeds reinvest in Gateway Park, a gateway area. Just maybe want to give you some heads up and background on that. We had tried this in the past, like, proceeding from special area from parking goes to specific area. It was not successful. I think it has some, I think we need to do further analysis on that, how that could be done legally, because the parking money that currently we get, it goes to a general fund as a general measure, and it's used for the city's benefit. It's not a specialized parking. So we need to do more research before putting that language. Right now it's as a recommendation, so I think it's fine, but to make it a policy, it'll be, and we need to maybe check with our city attorney or legals on that before we recommend to reinvest the money from parking just for that area, to a specific area. That's my thought.
So maybe we could just add in parentheses if consistent with city policy or something like that after it. Or if possible or something, just put a quick little qualifier in something. I'm not sure what word it would be.
That has been done really successfully in other areas. I think they create a special district of some sort.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that there is a process for that. So just want to, yeah.
It's good to have that goal in there listed so that it can be a vision type thing to maybe pursue. Okay, so do we have any objections on the four of us on having that in there like it is? Okay, I think we're good to move on.
Okay, great. Natra, I see your hand just went down, so excellent. This next one came from Susan Cashman, and I do think this one will be very straightforward to add just as an additional sentence to this existing policy. Susan, you spoke to this a little bit before, but do you want to?
Right. No, that was I put it in there. It could be mentioned in lots of places, but that seemed an obvious place. I looked online. I could not find bus routes. I could not find safe routes to school maps. I couldn't find anything for Arcata that I could overlay with the gateway area to see where the conflicts would be. And so it would be nice if there were, I don't know whose responsibility it is, whether that's Arcata City Schools or who, but it was hard for me to find that, and it would be hard for a parent, I think, to find that information.
Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to go ahead and draft this as a potential addition to this policy, and then I'm happy to change it as we,
Okay, thank you.
discuss. Okay.
All right. No objections. That's a good one. Thank you, Susan. Are we good to move on? Anybody have anything? Okay.
Well, just one. It's they should meet the needs.
I like it. I like it. Okay, we can do that. Okay, well, I'm assuming that means generally their support, and I'm just going to move on. Okay, this is another L Street comment, so we'll come back to it. Same with this one. It sounds like, Dave, you were voicing support for this section and had some L Street specific comments. Are there any other thoughts, though, from the committee on the Barrel District more generally? It's a brand new area to develop. I'd be very curious to hear any thoughts anyone may have.
Just in case I don't get a chance any other time this evening to mention, I mean, when I've read through this, I think it's amazing and excellent. I think it does a great job overall. I really do think that it's got a great flavor to it in meeting goals of Arcata. So I know we're kind of goal is to come in and find things that we want to modify and edit. So just wanted to point that out.
Thanks. We do appreciate that. And yeah, if you didn't have suggestions for ways to change it, you wouldn't have a job, and democracy would not be functioning. So we appreciate constructive feedback.
All right.
No, I like it.
Okay, I'm going to move on then, but I can come back. Okay, Karina, you had.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I don't even remember what I was.
Including ride share.
Yeah. Like zip cars or some such. Because sometimes you do need to make a longer trip and the car is more convenient. But the nice thing about rideshare is you don't have to own it the other 98% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, car share, ride share, bike share, that sort of thing would be useful to mention.
Okay. Yeah, car share may already be in here.
I looked. I didn't see it.
Yeah, it's I think one of the more detailed.
Well, must have been an efficient meeting you went to, huh, Data?
They're hopping out of the darkness.
They're having quorum issues at the other meeting, and so I figured I'd be more useful here.
You hoped we were finished and you could go home. But sorry, we're still here.
Yeah, as if.
But we're making great progress.
Yeah, no, we are.
I just wanted to report that car share is included, and we've been talking about car share. Bike shares is not explicitly. We haven't talked about that explicitly, but the car share. There's a couple of options. I tried for about 2 years to get Zipcar to get back in touch with me, and we're just too small a market for them. But we did finally reach out to a project-based car share company that said that their platform is pretty flexible and could be used more like a Zipcar public car share if desired. And they're very interested in moving into our market. So that is definitely going to be one of the amenities in the form-based code. And we can highlight that in more detail in here if we can't find it.
I think, if we'd like to explore adding it as a subsection here.
No.
Yeah, let's come back with that. Yeah.
What was the plan here? I'm not sure I follow what we're doing.
think we will find a place to highlight and emphasize car and bike share in the policy. And I just wanted to reaffirm that that has always been part of this. So I don't want to do it on the fly necessarily because, to make policy on the fly is a bit risky, but we can definitely find a place for that.
Okay. Smart and funky.
I would like to see accessible in here somewhere. Because of people, if you've ever tried to navigate through Arcata with a wheelchair, and so we really need to consider the needs of people who use other forms of mobility than walking and biking.
Sorry. In front of my house is a 49-inch sidewalk with power poles in them. I hear you.
So where it says safe and attractive pedestrian facilities, is there another word? Walking and rolling routes, or I'm not sure how you do what we would say, but I think it needs to be included.
Okay. How about pedestrian and ADA friendly? Or mobility friendly? Or no, that doesn't.
We also could put it here at the beginning.
There's just to let the committee know as well that there's streetscape policy GA8A, excuse me, identifies accessibility, and that definitely is a one of the guiding principles. So it definitely comports.
So that's down below 8A, you said?
Yep.
GA8H or something. Can we look at that real quick?
Sure. So that's in streetscape. So that's ensuring design prioritizes pedestrian
For all
circulation.
ambulatory modes.
Yep.
There you go.
And we can also, again, we can emphasize that in other places because I do think that, that is absolutely not only the desire, but also the, we're regulated to do so, but, we can go above and beyond the regulations as well.
Mm-hmm.
So is there a way to go back up to GA, whichever one we're doing, and just say,
we got pretty far, you guys. Okay, here we are. We're like halfway through.
So I want to make sure Karina's, was it Karina or was it Wendy maybe that made that comment, to make sure that I like the term ambulatory. There you go. Okay, she's got it in there.
So we could merge this, with this first part, or find ways to incorporate it throughout. I think we can commit to either. Okay.
Oh, also, back up. Ensure explicit ride share and bike share language.
Okay.
Or ride and bike share language.
Got it.
There we go.
Okay.
Sweetness.
Dave, Ryan, it looks like you had a couple of comments in here as well. Is there anything that would impact the policy language as drafted?
This was more of a visionary, a long-term thing that and maybe it's better to bring up. I don't know if it'll be when we get to the 8th and 9th Street project. Mm-hmm. It's one of those crazy things that quickly gets dismissed from discussion because people go, oh, that's just too costly and that's crazy. And you're talking about putting a bridge. I mean, even the Fickle Hill Road crossing that they're working on for the Ridge Trail, they're just not going to consider a bridge, period. And I know that when bridges are brought up, it's very difficult to build that infrastructure in a neighborhood. But it was something that I keep coming up with, and Coalition for Responsible Transportation Planning also brought up about K Street, getting across K Street. And of course, they support L Street, which I can, talk about it another time. They think that if you make K Street better, that's it's going to be easier to cross. But I just envision something that people can get across K Street that goes over it, whether you're on a bike, whether you're walking, and there needs to be an east-west route in Arcata to do that. So I thought we need a bridge. And it's just something. How do you put that in as a vision, so that it's just puts the idea out there for people to think about? Not maybe it's not practical to implement as part of this, but
shockingly, have to disagree.
Pardon me?
I disagree about bridges, about pedestrian bridges. They're not very accessible for people in wheelchairs because there's always a slope.
Right.
You have to walk like 3 times the distance just to get across the street. And they do take up a lot of space.
Yeah.
I would like to see something about crossings, though, because what the solution is. I don't think bulb outs is sufficient just by itself, or bump outs, whatever they call them. I think we should say something about crossings.
So maybe there's a way to just encourage, consideration of creative and imaginative new ways to develop safe crossings. I kind of tend to agree with Wendy. That's why I came up with a bridge, a zip line. No, they're just, we need to think out of the box. And if we don't put something in there to come up, I guess they're always trying to think of new and creative ways, but so I'm happy to drop the bridge idea. I can cross that bridge another time on a different project and in a different venue. So maybe we don't need to waste time on it today.
What about the on-demand blinky red lights instead of the usual blinky yellow?
I think maybe those are already somewhere in there. Probably, David.
Yeah, but there's the blinky yellows.
Yeah.
Yellow just means hey.
The blinking red.
Oh, too many people choose to ignore them. The red says no, stop. Just a thought.
Yeah, I don't think we want to go the route where we use the standards that say you have to have so many accidents before you put in a crossing.
Right.
We should build the safety in beforehand.
Yes.
So maybe I could reword that and suggest we put something in as
let's take a vote. Let's get something on the table and take a vote.
Explore safer methods. Explore additional and safer methods for crossing K Street. Anybody want to add to that or edit it, or
could we say create instead of explore? Because I don't think it should be optional.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, definitely.
And maybe that wording, isn't perfect, but it gets the idea there. Susan, any thoughts?
No, I think create is good in that it sort of forces something has to happen here.
Okay. So I think we're in support and moving on, and you can just eliminate the one that I had there, Dilo, regarding a bridge.
Okay. That sounds great. Okay. Chugging right along. Another L Street comment here. So Karina,
ignore that.
Okay. Okay, so I don't know if we want to discuss this or.
Well, it says, where did it go? Dedicate parcel frontage for the creation of expanded right-of-way for the purposes of additional pedestrian facilities, off-street parking, which off-street parking to me says parking lot. That's what confused me.
Yeah, that is a little confusing. I think the idea here is that more along the lines of what we did with the Sorrel Place, where the sidewalk on Sorrel Place is actually on private property, and there's an easement for public access there because there was no parking on the street frontage there. And by dropping the entire project back, we were able to garner on-street parking. So I think that's the concept that's not very clearly worded right there. I think that could be could be better worded. The idea behind this policy is that instead of, for example, having a front setback be dedicated to landscaping or some other purpose like that, that we would add it to the public sphere. So instead of having 5-foot sidewalks, we could maybe have 10-foot sidewalks with a 5-foot setback, instead of having a 5-foot sidewalk and then a fence that says "keep off my property" and then a lawn behind that or something like that. So we'll refine this language. I do see the source of the confusion, and we'll definitely update that.
Okay.
David, I'm not sure I understand. We don't really want there to be parking in front of buildings because that's not pedestrian friendly, right? Is that not what you're talking about?
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about on-street parking. That shouldn't have said off-street parking. The intent here is to allow the use of private land for public purposes to create space for those public purposes that we don't have additional right-of-way that we can use. And so in areas where, as with the Sorrel Place project, it was constrained, there was no way to add on-street parking in the existing configuration with the existing standards. We moved that entire project back about 12 feet, which allowed us to veer. If you go by Sorrel Place and you look on the 7th Street side, you'll note that the sidewalk does kind of a chicane.
Yeah.
And within that chicane, we created public parking, and that public parking is actually on the public right-of-way where the sidewalk used to be.
Okay.
And then the sidewalk is actually on private property. And so the idea being that we would have dedications of easements to the city for public purposes of all shapes and forms. This gives some flexibility for our future selves to figure out what's best in the particular situation.
Got it.
Okay, sorry, I was just snacking there for a minute, but I'm here. Next one, these two had comments that were kind of carried over from the January meeting, not a specific comment that was submitted. Both comments being the same: consider offsite and shared parking amenities. Is there a desire from the committee to modify either of these, either parking standards or parking lot locations, in line with this comment?
I don't know where the comments came from or who made them. If maybe somebody remembers, otherwise I have no input.
I got nothing.
I think I remember Dobie Class actually saying, is there a possibility of having a parking lot that's removed from the area where people who want to use a car once a month to go visit their relatives, can store a car? Maybe that's where that came from.
Yeah, and I think some of that is already built into the plan as it's currently drafted, and it'll be, again, more specifically identified in the form-based code. But yeah, the idea is that we would want to be able to create some nodes where parking could occur that would maintain the, to the extent feasible, car-free lifestyle feeling of the area. And those, that also ties in with another policy area that would be to have fee for parking, so that the true value of those parking spaces is realized by the people who have the resources and feel the need to have one. And so you might have a parking garage where you store your car, but you're paying for your amenities. So decoupling the parking from the other uses and making it cost. This also came up in the Energy Committee meeting last night, and they ultimately made a recommendation to find ways to have parking to the maximum extent possible be fee for parking as opposed to just free.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, think before you came back, we had a little discussion on that. So maybe we can move on from that. I'm not hearing that we have a specific recommendation that anybody's promoting.
Well, can we
or
add
somebody wants to.
I would like to see if that's the only thing that there is about parking standards, then I would like to see something about unbundling the parking from rents.
Oh, yes. Those should be separate.
Yeah, and I think that is totally doable. Again, I think that's part of the concept from the beginning. I can't point to the specific language if it's in there, but I also think CRTP made similar comments.
Yeah, always good to immortalize anything, make a record of it. So any additional parking, location or standard comments that have the support of the committee? David, would you mind muting? You're clacking away over there.
Sorry.
That's okay. Okay, I'm moving on.
All right.
So, Dave, this was your comment. Would you like to speak to it?
Yeah, maybe it's a question I just need to be educated. This may not seem like a transportation issue, but and it's probably somewhere else in the plan that's not under transportation and circulation. The reason I think it's important to have businesses on the bottom floors of street frontage is that people don't always have to leave their community, to go elsewhere. And I think this whole plan speaks to it. I just didn't see it in here to where you can minimize vehicle trips of leaving the area. So I just wanted to make sure that there's somewhere else in the plan without me having to go through and find it.
Yeah, absolutely. The land use section definitely speaks to encouraging mixed use.
Yeah. And I guess the other thing is if it's a menu item or a choice for them to do that, you can't necessarily require everybody to do it, but I'm just wondering as things grow through the years and you're not getting people picking certain things from the menu, do you have to start requiring it of others? Or if you get enough early on, are you able to drop it off from requiring it of others? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, I think so, Dave. And I think that there's kind of two parts to it. In terms of, and I think what you're referring to with menu, just confirm, is the menu of amenities, or are you referring to the menu of uses?
I think amenities, yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of the encouraging commercial or retail on the bottom floors, Dilo is absolutely right that there's target land use mixes in the land use vision that identifies the the target mix of commercial to residential. What we found in our current codes that require commercial or commercial on the ground floor is that it de-incentivizes any development. We have several projects that would have been built, would have contributed housing to the community, but they couldn't make the commercial side of it pencil, and so they just haven't built. And so a little bit of what's going on in this one small area of town is trusting the market to balance those uses. Right now we have many vacant storefronts or underutilized storefronts. And as we have more people needing more retail activity, those storefronts will fill. As we have more people, there'll be a need for more storefronts. And so kind of trusting the market to build those out. But at the same time, we have a provision to revisit. If we don't see it moving that direction, if we're starting to see the gateway turn into sort of like a bedroom community, then we'd have to step in and change the regulation. Having said that, I will say that there are certain areas within the plan area that are going to be prime for ensuring that there are some ground floor commercial or retail or industry of some type, and there are going to be provisions for requiring that in certain cases, but just not writ large. Transitioning to the amenities. You're exactly right. If you leave it to the open market, everyone is going to pick the simplest, cheapest, fastest amenity. And so we've got two structures. The one that's been in there from the beginning, which is to have an amenities list that tiers the amenities. And so you have to pull for your amenity package. You have to pull from each of the different tiers. Some things are going to be more expensive and a bigger contribution. Some things are going to be relatively easy for a project to do and be less expensive. And then Delo, when she was thinking about this, she had the exact same concern that you did about, well, what if everyone picks the same package? Because there's going to be some certain suite. And so she, I believe, and Delo, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm misattributing this concept, but she came up with this idea to create basically packages. You buy a bundle. So you get a bundle within the tiers, but we may only have 5 bundles that have, say, tot lot on them. And so once those 5 tot lots are built out into the community because 5 projects selected that package, tot lot is no longer one of the options for future developments. And so it really does ensure that the distribution of the amenities that we ultimately put onto that list, the full distribution of those, we see realized in the community. Now, there may be certain things, trail contribution, for example, that we wouldn't mind if every single project dedicated to that. Net zero buildings, we wouldn't mind if every project contributed to that. So there are certain things that are going to be available for any package.
Yeah, it's good. Makes sense. Thanks for that explanation.
That was my idea, by the way. I hope that we do it.
Brilliant idea, by the way.
Yay. So you could have like an active transportation package where it's like bike showers and bus passes and lockers, but you're getting all of it as sort of like a theme. Anyway, we're in deliberations.
I wanted to ask, I don't know if there's somewhere else where this fits in, but I know in, cities where there has been a lot of development, you get this issue where everything's getting paved and some of the zoning has been done, form-based zoning to specify a percentage of only a certain percentage of the property can be paved, or there's a ratio of that to green space. Because you get into problems with heat, you get into problems with runoff. And so if this is the place where we do that for parking lots, I would suggest we put something like that in here. Am I being clear? Was that confusing?
It wasn't confusing. I don't think, I think I was just thinking through in my mind what things we might have already tools in our tool belt that could help. I mean, we have site coverage, which is a standard, everywhere in the city, which is basically impermeable surface to permeable surface ratio.
There are also state standards that they have to comply with. What Wendy, you're saying is runoff problems. We have a state standard, we call it an MS4 requirements for stormwater. So anytime there's new construction, they have to comply with certain requirements so that they are not creating additional runoff. So there is already standards in place while the project is getting built. So it's that way.
As well as, just typical landscaping standards that we apply and will continue, to apply to ensure that we're not looking at, a paved paradise type situation.
Karina, I'm not sure if we lost you. I see you're visually gone, but your hand is up. Is there
Yes, my hand is up. It's a sort of a related note to amenities. Does the city have rules, guidelines for developers for including bicycle amenities in their buildings? I'm thinking of how they're to be done. I'm thinking of Sorrel Place as a perfect example of how not to do it. I don't know if you've been in there, and we've talked about this, David. Sorrel Place put their bike room on the 4th floor, where nobody who is not on the 4th floor will ever use it. When I saw it, it was not labeled, so I don't think most of the people even knew it was there. It should require that it be on the 1st floor and near an entrance. And the bike rack they put outside was a very inexpensive and nearly useless one.
Yeah, the intent is to incentivize, high quality indoor bike storage. The Energy Committee pointed out that should also have access for electric bikes. And the idea is that, even going beyond just bike storage, in particular for commercial uses where to incentivize biking, you would also need to have, lockers and, and showers potentially so that people could bike to work, shower, get dressed, go to work.
Yeah, but that's for businesses. I'm speaking residences.
Yeah, I'm just responding in general to the overall program. So yeah, that is definitely the intent, and some of those specifications that you provided could be further fleshed out in the form-based code.
Okay. Thank you.
I think those are all really good points. So I mean, we have to have a high quality alternative transportation network of all the different alternative modes in order to support alternative transportation. In fact, we can't just have little bits and pieces. Having, the greatest bike trails in the entire world is not going to help people start bike commuting if they don't have a place to store their bike when they get to their destination.
Yeah. Or if they have to take an elevator to get to it.
Okay, I'd encourage us. Let's move along. So, Dilo, what's our next one? I think we're done with that one.
Next comment here, back to Karina, emphasize the gateway area as a destination with outdoor amenities. I do think, some of the existing open space policies likely speak to this, if not others. We can also consider, modifying this pedestrian priority policy to speak to that if the committee wants to.
So, Karina, what are you recommending? Just
places for people to sit. There are very few places in downtown Arcata for anyone to sit.
There is street furniture
off the plaza.
Mm-hmm.
There is seating. Seating. Well, there you go.
Okay. Any other thoughts on this pedestrian priority policy before we move on? No? Okay.
Nope.
Okay. So this next one, again from Karina, I think would be pretty straightforward to just modify the existing policy to add this language.
Yeah, I don't remember where I saw it, but there are newer techniques for planting trees, street trees, that are better for the trees and for the sidewalk than the usual slap it in a square. I don't remember exactly what it is, but they exist.
Okay.
I seem to remember something about a trench rather than the square, so that they're all connected. They get more water and the roots have a place to go. I should have bookmarked that.
Well, the one below talks about tree species. I guess you're talking about planting techniques or something.
Yes.
All right. I have no problems with that one, adding it as a recommendation. Anybody?
I know
Jeff?
that's technically our area. It was just something I saw.
All right. I think we're good.
Okay. Karina, you want to speak to this next one?
The next one? Yeah, bike lockers. Bike lockers would be wonderful. They're better for longer term. I mean, the toughest kryptonite lock, it'll take an angle grinder like 3 or 4 minutes to get through. But a bland blank rectangle that may have a $5,000 Carbon Wonder bike or a $20 department store trashed out bike or nothing, it's a lot more of a deterrent. And they have locks.
And Karina, would this be associated with certain developments, in which case maybe it would make more sense to go in the form-based code?
Like transit.
Okay, so I like at bus stops.
At bus stops, places where people are going to leave their bikes for longer periods of time.
Mm-hmm.
And, 5 minutes to run into the shop.
Mm-hmm.
Not at the bus stops.
Okay.
Although I understand, like, the transit center makes sense, but at the bus stop, having a bus locker, like, people are there for temporary stops, not for long term. I think I would say definitely bike
people don't leave their bikes
at the bus stop.
Yeah, at the bus stops. Okay.
Well, people do have to leave their bikes at the bus stop. You bike to it's the last mile, you bike to the bus.
And I've been denied getting onto a bus because it was full.
I think we're kind of getting into the weeds here in terms of like where these things will be located, but I think that having bike lockers at bus stops may be in conflict with other pedestrian-oriented uses that the sidewalks are intended for. But there could be
nearby.
I think that there could be bike lockers encouraged at strategic locations, and if committee wants to include bike lockers specifically in a policy, we can, I'm sure, find a way to weave that in.
Okay.
I don't see them being needed universally all over the place. I could see certain areas where there's a lot of, transit meeting. So, I don't object to the concept, but I'd kind of like to see a little more of a specific recommendation.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure I'm sending the right message. I'm not saying no to bike lockers. It needs to be in a location where people will be storing that for a long term, on specific locations like a transit center or maybe some apartment building near the bus stop, or specific, instead of a car parking, it should be a bike parking area where people will be using it for an apartment. Definitely, I am agreeing.
You could have a couple of them right next to the bike racks.
I'm wondering if we should write a policy, something like explore locations for bike lockers, if that would meet the needs.
How about instead of trying to craft the language right now, we just take that general direction, and I think we can work with it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
So I'm assuming the committee is supportive of us exploring this.
Yeah, I don't object to exploring it further.
Okay.
The way it's written.
Okay. Susan, this next one was from you.
Yeah, I've always mentioned this. I've mentioned this a couple of times before, and I just didn't know which box to put it in. So same comment. I'm really concerned about young families and young children whose family don't have a car and they're not going to drop them off. And I don't know if there's a bus, how they're going to get to school.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, any interest in the committee and pursuing this in language?
So that's. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, never mind. I'm sorry. I was just thinking about EV charging and light poles.
Okay, before we jump to the EV charging, I was going to ask if this Arcata School walking maps is something that would be applicable citywide, and maybe that's something that might land in the circulation element of the general plan.
You would know better where to put it than I don't know where to put it.
You're kind of thinking of this citywide, though, right? This would be applicable. I'm trying to.
Well, it might be. I don't know. When this discussion came up briefly in our January meeting, someone said, well, maybe there's going to be a school in this area if we have that big population increase. Well, maybe there is, but we don't know.
Yeah. I like this concept. I think maybe Netra and David and I can group together and whoever else and maybe come back with a suggestion.
Okay, that's fine.
So that has to be done in partnership with the school. So there is already a school in the Gateway area, and it has to be done in a partnership with the school. When we do a Safe Route to School projects, we work with the school and we create a safe route to school for the kids, and where the stop location is, where the pickup location is. So it's specific to the school. It's not for the whole city. It will be specific to the school for the children who go to school. What is the best safe route to school from where they live, or the closest stopping area?
Are the schools already making maps, Netra? Do they already produce maps?
Yeah. So every time we did a Safe Route to School project, in my lifetime in the city, I have done 2 Safe Route to School projects, and in both of them, we worked with the school and we created those maps and we shared with the school, and they provide them to the students of the school. I'm not sure how regularly that happens, but I think it's a good point. We should check with them and how regularly they are updating or sharing that with the parents and the students.
Yeah, I went to the HCOG website and searched safe routes to school, and that's the web address that I put in here. And there wasn't anything for Arcata. So if I were a parent with young children who was considering moving to an apartment in the Gateway area, I would not have had easy access to that. I don't know where else I would have looked for it.
No, I think it is a very good point and it's a valid point, and we should definitely work on that. It used to be a very active group, and I remember going to some meetings at the county level. We used to meet once a month, Safe Route to School, but it's been the last 3 or 4 years we have not done that meeting. So it's a good point, and we should definitely address that. At least we should put that on our city website, at least, not only HCOG's.
Yeah, it should be on. I looked on the city website also. I didn't see it.
Yeah. No, that's a very good point. Thank you.
So, folks, I'm going to make a suggestion that we adjourn here pretty soon, because I'm losing steam and I don't want to continue with something this important with people needing to get on with their evenings. So I'm going to suggest we pick this up at our next meeting right where we're leaving off, and just want to see what the other committee members think of that.
I think we're almost done.
I'd like to leave now.
No, we're not done, because we haven't talked about L Street, and I'm not going to talk about it at the tail end. It's like you've just been driving from San Francisco and you're almost home, and now you're going to talk about L Street. So regardless, I'm going to suggest we adjourn before we get to that. So we're not going to finish tonight.
Would the committee be interested in scheduling a special meeting or waiting until the next regularly scheduled meeting?
Well, I'll maybe see what is the need of your project. I know you have a tight time frame and tight schedule, and you have scheduled meetings, and you have to produce certain documents in certain times. So what works best for this project to move along? I think that what we will do, if we need to have a special meeting, we'll definitely work with TSC and we'll do a special meeting in the next 2 weeks. So definitely we need to see their schedule. But it's doable, I'll maybe let Dave Ryan make that call. But if it's that warranted to have a special meeting, definitely we'll do. Next meeting is on August 16th, which is not that far away, I would say. And we have other items also. Like I believe the general plan transportation limit will be coming maybe potentially in August meeting, so it will take time as well. So I think it's worth considering special meeting to complete at least this portion of the meeting, and that we have started today. So with that, maybe Dave, your thoughts, and maybe before that, David and Dilo, do you have any thoughts on timing and schedule? What you need from us?
I think I'm going to leave it to the committee to decide, how they want to run the timing. I'm not going to be here on the 16th, but that's not as important as, the committee being there. And so I would suggest you leave it open. If you can find a special meeting, it might be nice to carry the conversation forward. But certainly the August 16th is, soon enough.
One thing I'll add to that is we have been coordinating with GHD, and they requested to bring the circulation element of the general plan to the September meeting instead of the August. They don't think they'll make it in time. So that would maybe free up some additional time at the next regular meeting.
And I would entertain something in a couple of weeks. And again, maybe on a Tuesday, since we've all already made our Tuesdays available for this once a month. I don't think we need to set a date or make it happen right here and now. Maybe we could determine via emails to the committee members after they have a chance to look at their schedules to see. We could throw out a couple of dates. 2 weeks, I would suggest just 2 weeks between the two meetings. So there's some separation. That would be August 2nd, I guess. The people that are here, what are your thoughts on a special meeting, or would you rather just wait till August 16th? You got an idea, Wendy?
No, either
Karina?
works for me.
Okay.
I've got nothing but time.
Susan?
I'm neutral. I don't have a strong feeling.
Okay. Nature, is that sound like the mechanics in terms of asking? There are other members. Of course,
Yeah.
Josh has to recuse himself, but so he wouldn't need to come to that meeting. And this would be specifically for this item, nothing else.
I do have a question. There several folks who are in making public comment referred to a Plan B, and it would be, if there is such a thing, it would be great to be able to see that when we start talking about this topic.
Yeah, we could talk about, the quote unquote Plan B when you pick this up August 2nd.
Okay, so for now, Dave, as you asked, maybe let's shoot for August 2nd, and we will send email to Mishka and Misael and see if they're available. And then if they are, then we'll just plan for August 2nd tentatively for now. If that doesn't work, then we will explore other options. So for now, let's plan for August 2nd to continue this item.
Okay.
So let's make a motion to continue this item. I think we have never done this, but I believe that's the way to do it.
Can the chair make that motion?
I'll make it.
Okay. Wendy makes a motion for a special meeting on August 2nd to continue discussion on this item only.
So if you are going to continue the hearing like this, then you actually have to note a date and time. And so August 2nd at a specific time.
4:30 is what I would recommend.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second for doing this on August 2nd at 4:30, subject to emails making that happen, and we'll have to try to get that done soon enough for public noticing, et cetera. Let's go around and vote. I vote yes. Wendy?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
Karina?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. We'll pick it up in 2 weeks, if indeed, after getting our emails and checking our calendars, we can make it happen. David or Nature, you have anything else before we adjourn? Or David or Dilo?
I really appreciate all of your time, and
2 minutes to do. Let me get my August 16th regular meeting.
Yeah, it looks like all we had left were general updates, and then the date for next meeting and future agenda items.
Oh, and then discuss the annual report. David, did you say we, or Nature, one of you suggested we could move that back a month?
Yeah, till the next meeting is what was the plan. Yes, for August.
Okay, and you sent something to me, and I started making a few comments to it, and somehow it didn't work. So I'll get that back to you on the annual report.
Okay.
And we can discuss open streets in the Arcata Plaza on the future agenda items, and I believe that was brought up by a public member named Genevieve. Karina, you have your hand up.
Yes. If it's okay with you guys, I'd like to add a couple of items. They shouldn't be too bad.
What you got?
I would like us to review the speed hump policy, see if it needs updating.
Okay. What else do you got?
And could we maybe briefly discuss the Portland Car Master Plan that I believe Melanie sent a link to you guys? I'm curious if it is something that would be relevant to Arcata.
So I think we'd be adding these items contingent upon some other things that I know Nature and David maybe have brought up that we're going to be tackling. And as long as it's they're not real critical, that we can get to them at a next meeting or something.
The Car Master Plan is not super critical right now. The speed hump policy is a little bit. The troubles we've been having with Ross Street seem to indicate that it might be warranted.
Nature and David, you got those? Are we good with adding those to a future agenda?
Yeah.
I think we are losing quorum here for adjourn. I believe Susan already left.
Yeah, I just had one more thing that AB 43 dropped off the agenda. It was carrying there as a future item for a while and it just disappeared, and I still want to talk about that. There's more cities that are lowering their speed limits. We could do it too.
Okay, if we've lost our quorum, we're adjourned, right? All right, everybody. Thank you. Sorry about the length of the meeting. Appreciate everybody's time, especially city staff doing this again and again. So we'll see you guys all next time.